Okay, guys, we're live. We're live. My guest tonight is really an out-of-line player. He's liked off the tables, not so much on the tables, because he's out there fighting for pots, putting bets in, stealing blinds, check raising turns, 4-bet bluffing with questionable hands. He gets more out of line than a kid with a coloring book. You know who said that? Shout out to Joe Stapleton. That's one of his lines.
A good line.
He's allegedly Faraz Jaka's Frankenstein. Damn, a monster. Because I feel that Faraz created a real life monster. The kid is a monster at the tables, guys. Ladies and gents, let's welcome Ryan Hogan. Ryan, what's up? How you doing today?
Good. That's an awesome intro. I feel cool. I appreciate that.
It's all true. It's all true.
All right.
We got Shane co-hosting. Shane, thank you for co-hosting today.
What up? Hey, Ryan. Stoked to talk with you today.
Shane is a staple on the podcast. Ryan, we're going to start off, as usual, a little background, how you started, your beginnings, and how you were introduced to the game. Tell us a little bit about that.
All right, sure. Yeah, so I do actually watch all your episodes. So I knew I was getting this question. So I had to go back and think, it was a long time ago. If the poker story starts a long time ago. So I do want to just preface it saying some of this stuff is just fuzzy. The exact order, it's just too long ago. But yeah, so in terms of the poker story, it's really a 2-act thing in the sense that I had a whole kind of poker, for lack of a better word, career, left for a decade and then came back. And so, there's kind of it's just really 2 different stories. But if you want to start at the very beginning, we have to go back to the 1990s, which is a very
in Detroit.
Yeah, in Detroit. And
right.
So I'd already graduated high school. I was living with a buddy. I didn't go to college right away. And this is the most random thing ever. But I used to as a hobby, I would go to libraries or Borders books or whatever, and I would just hang out there, just kind of my me time or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I found poker. I ran into a book by Andy Nelson. I never played poker before, and I was looking. I'm like, this looks pretty cool, and so I checked it out of the library and I read it. It's man, this is really fun. I would very much like to play this, but I couldn't get anybody to play with me. There was zero interest for poker or anything like that, but I really liked it. I was like, man, this is cool. And so I just went back to Borders and read another book. Got the other Andy Nelson book. This time I bought it. So the first poker book I ever bought was Andy Nelson's A Winner's Guide. Read that. And then I started reading more poker books. And then I would just go to Borders whenever they had a new shipment of stuff. I would see if there any new poker books. And I probably read, not kidding you, 6-7 poker books before I ever played a hand of poker. Just no one, because no one would play with me. Which is
this story is very unusual.
I liked it, but no one wanted to play.
Never heard. Go ahead, Shane.
Oh, I know it's been decades, but when you read those books, is there one thing that you still remember actively, the first kind of note that you learned? Don't do this.
Yes, it had to do with 5-card stud, learning the rules of 5-card stud, and I thought that was the game. I thought 5-card stud was how you determine champions. That seems
very unusual for somebody to read a book about something that they've never. Me back in those days, I was into bodybuilding a lot and lifting weights and becoming a bodybuilder because I had no clue how much goes into it, but I always had an interest in a sport or a discipline, and then I read a book about it. You went about it the other way around. You read the book first before playing the game, which is very unusual.
Yeah, I guess it'd be the modern day equivalent of the YouTube rabbit hole, except for we didn't have internet back then. I was I was at the library and fell into this poker book version of a rabbit hole where I was I really like this game. I wish someone would play with me. But then a couple other things happened during this time frame, and I don't remember the order. But at some point, they announced that they're going to build casinos in Detroit, and I remember thinking, "Well, maybe they'll be a poker room in there." And I was thinking, a couple of years, if I just read a bunch of poker books, by the time that opens up, be able to play, And so I had that like in the back of my mind. And then also I saw the movie Rounders. And so that, and I was like, wow, like this is the coolest thing ever. And so like, yeah, I was a fan. I was a huge fan of poker, but I was not a poker player because I just didn't have the opportunity to play. And then fast forward, I decided to go to college, went to Michigan State University, and then and this is actually funny because I can pull this out. Is I figured out someone told me that there was an Indian casino up northern Michigan in Mount Pleasant, and they had a poker room. And so the very first time I ever played poker was July 9th of the year 2000. I played 2-4 Hold'em and won $132.
Wow.
So I found this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
wait. What is that note? What is that note? What is that notebook?
Yeah, this is my very first like poker book or whatever.
Put it close to the camera. Let's see it.
Yeah, this is here. Here we go.
Some notes on them.
Where is this? Okay, leave it like this.
Can you see it?
What is that? 900.
My very first sessions of poker ever.
This
$46,
is
4-8 Hold'em.
2-4 Hold'em, and what does it say? Sunny Eagle.
Yeah, Soaring Eagle.
Soaring Eagle.
And you can see the dates. I couldn't like go there a lot. Like this is like I was going there like once every 2 weeks because it wasn't close. It was.
Look at this kid. He's ahead of his time. He went the first time to the casino. He's like keeping notes of buying and how much he made.
Yeah, so I had a little log here, so I was definitely winning. but it wasn't like really like so like the next like 3 years of college or whatever. I couldn't really go up to Mount Pleasant because it was like a 2-hour drive. I could do it like every once in a while, but I loved it. No one else was into it. And I had other priorities. I wanted to go. I was on the hockey. I was playing hockey. I was, going out drinking with my friends. I had a girlfriend, all that stuff. So it just like, it was, I won. It was really cool to be able to tell people, hey, when I go to the casino, I win money. Like, no, you don't. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, like, I can actually do this thing. It was like this, like a good ego thing or whatever. But I did at some point got my friends to watch Rounders. And so there's a little bit of people starting to think, yeah, this is kind of fun, but we never got like a game going or anything like that. But that's when internet poker first started. Like I didn't have a computer or anything like that, but sometime in that college years, I graduated 2003 or whatever it was, I would go down to the computer lab and download the software. This is before Poker Stars and all that stuff. Like we had
at the library, you download like the poker client?
Yeah, literally the whole thing, and then I had to uninstall it before I left. It was like a whole freaking thing.
I did that with like video games when I was like 8, but you did it with like gambling. That's fun.
Yeah, exactly. And so and like there wasn't a big player pool, so like I would just play a lot of heads up, limit hold'em. So that's like how I also, and I was winning. I was always winning. But it was never like a big, like, I'm going to do this for a living or anything like that. It was just this cool thing I could brag about being able to do. And then I graduated and went out in the real world. I was working in sales. And that's when things somewhat changed because that's when, like at this point, I'm still a huge poker fan. Like there was this writer called Andy Glazer, I believe his name was, but he had this website that would follow the poker world. And I just followed it religiously. I loved it. Just, trying to figure out where all the poker players were going and stuff like that. And again, this is all pre everything. This is pre 2+2. So there's like this thing called rec.gambling.poker. And like, like the smartest people in poker would hang out there. And there's this like really smart ass kid called Kid Poker on there that always like give advice and stuff like that. And
was it Negrano?
Yeah, it was Negrano. And like, Phil Hellmuth would pop in there every once in a while when we wanted to promote something. And the one thing I do remember him promoting was the very first time they ever had poker on TV with the whole cams. It wasn't World Poker Tour. It was something else. I forget what the name of it was. But anyways, so I was just this fan of poker. But I didn't really get to play a lot. But then the big thing that happened was once I started working, because the biggest problem was when I would read these books, they would say they have the bankroll requirements, right? And I would always be like, yeah, all right, so I'm never going to be a poker player.
Yeah.
Like, if I had this much money, I would go buy a house. I'm not going to be, risking this much. So like in my mind, I was always like, all right, I'm always going to have 100% of my bankroll on the table. Like I'm just never, it's one of those things. So, but once I started working, I had, income or whatever. And so I could play online and not spend it, and so like, that's when I started like kind of building up a bankroll. And a couple things happened. Again, we're getting real fuzzy, and I don't remember the exact order of things. But I did play in the very first Poker Stars tournament ever. It was a free roll, and I'm pretty sure I went deep in it, and that's how I got my Poker Stars bankroll. And then I also won the very first this site called Poker Pages, which was like the thing in poker back then. Try to start their own online poker thing, and they had this poker school online. And they did a free roll for that. And I won that, and I won a free membership there. So I had like free poker training. I had a little bankroll on Poker Stars, kind of just straight free roll. And it's kind of able to build a bankroll from there. And at some point, because this is the thing, like I was young, right? So I was a total tilt monkey. And I would tilt off a lot. But at some point, I found multi-table tournaments and single table tournaments. And I was always good at multi-table tournaments, but I couldn't play them because I had a girlfriend and we were going out partying. And I couldn't, you give away an entire day to go play multi-table tournaments. It just wasn't really an option for my lifestyle. But when I found single table tournaments, they take an hour. And I was just like, okay, I can just load these up. I can do that. I can find an hour in the day to go do this stuff. And that's really when I started taking off in poker. And I was pretty good. And this is, I can't do bad on the time frame, but
it doesn't have to be chronological. We can remember.
I kind of took off on single table tournaments. And if you look back at this era, there's like some real big names that kind of came up with these. Like this is, Fire Justice, that was Jonathan Little, and Raptor, which is Durr's roommate, and just Elke, all these guys. So this is really a throwback, but back then we used to all talk via AOL Instant Messenger. This is like, I guess it would be the modern day Discord or whatever like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would talk strategy and all this kind of stuff. And that's, so I did single table tournaments for a while. And at some point though, I really wanted to like kind of make more money, and I was crushing limit hold'em at the time. Like I could, like at one point, whatever the precursor to Shark Scope was, again, we're going back too far, but there would, like when it was out in beta or something like that, their very first snapshot of players had me like the #1 mid stakes guy for single table.
Nice. A lot of people don't know the sit and go stuff, but like Ben CB, a lot of like the goats online, they have like 25,000 sit and goes played. A lot of them.
I have over 10,000. I was just grinding those out. Yeah, like so. Actually, a little bit of an aside, but this is when massive multi-table first came out, was from the single table tournaments, and there was this guy called Space Gravy, was the first person to really do this, and he would get up into the 30s and then the 40s. And then this guy called RainCon came after him. He started 27 tabling, 28 tabling. And I saw that. I was like, well, I got to do it. And so, yeah, my record is in the 40s. I think I like 40 tables at one time.
Jesus.
And to this day, I think it broke my brain. That is not good for brains. But anyways, going back, but I switched to limit hold'em because I was making about $60-$70 an hour doing the single table tournament thing. But in limit hold'em, I was just crushing. I was doing over $100 an hour. So it was just like, so I switched back to limit hold'em. And at this point, there was a couple of job changes, and I ended up having a conversation with a judge friend of mine. And she was like, Ryan, what are you doing with your life type thing? She's just like, I really think you need to go back to school and become a lawyer. And I listened to it because I was thinking, maybe that actually might work, because I had just gotten engaged with become my wife, and I was like, man, I could actually, maybe just pivot to playing. You could go the Michael McDermott route, right, and just go to law school and play poker. I was like, man, that could really work. And so I said, all right, screw it, I'm gonna go to law school. And so took the LSAT, did well, that kind of stuff. And I applied to UNLV with the full plan of just going there. And I'm sorry, I should give a caveat. It's like we had to go to a place where my wife's a teacher, and we had to go to a place where she could get a teaching job. And so we kind of looked at the map, and we're like, okay, Vegas is hiring teachers, Orlando's hiring teachers, Miami's hiring teachers. And so my plan was UNLV #1, and then Miami. And there was really no law school in Orlando. And I found out turns out there was some place called Barry. So I was like, okay, I guess we'll apply there. And I got waitlisted at UNLV, which I was a little surprised by, but turns out it was their first year of the law school. And so they're all Nevada residents first. And then once that was filled, they would open it up to it. But I didn't know. I was like, well, I don't want to get stuck. And so, and Miami was too expensive. I was like, I do not have the money for that. It was just insane because it's a private school. It's just like a gajillion dollars. And Barry is like this, not a very good law school. It's nothing to brag about, but they gave me a scholarship. I was like, well, there's my decision. So packed up, went to Orlando, moved down there, and I started going to law school and playing poker. And turns out law school is really hard. It's not hard like in terms of like how I imagine like an engineering degree is. It's more just like voluminous. It's just so much stuff. And so, and I should like at this point in the story is when PokerStars came out with the Supernova program. I don't know if you guys remember the Supernova or not.
Of course.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, so that was when I first became Supernova. So I was grinding insane hours because it was really hard to get Supernova. It was a lot of hours. It was a year-long commitment. It's not like you just start Supernova. You had to like, really do a ton of hours. And so got Supernova, but what I didn't get was good grades my first year of law school. And so I lost my scholarship or half my scholarship or something like that. And that year Supernova, I did well rakeback wise, but not well money wise. And
Supernova, it's not an easy feat. You have to grind like what, 8-9 hours a day every single day.
It's a full-time job. So it's like a full-time job, and I was going to law school. It was just like and my first year of law school. So
I remember shout out to Poppy GTO. What's his name? Poppy GTO. Poppy.
Joe Ingram.
Joe Ingram. He had a little podcast where he was filming his come up to become a supernova. He was grinding like 9. He was a big time grinder online. He had a little back in those.
So but anyways, it cost me my law school.
When you said I was playing poker, like you were playing poker live, and where were you playing poker?
No, I'm online. I'm just an online guy.
Online, wow.
Online guy, just grinding, PokerStars and Full Tilt, Party Poker, and doing all that kind of stuff.
This here is what year? Like
all right, so I was just an online grinder starting 2004. And this story will go all the way to about 2009. And so, but there's a break in there where I basically stopped playing poker my second year of law school and got my scholarship back. And then I got back, re-grinded Supernova back the year after that, my last year of law school. And that was 2009. Okay. So, and this is kind of like where things kind of get important, is that I did not like poker at that point at all. It was like I was doing that because I went to law school. My wife's working as a teacher. Like we had just got married. Like I needed to like provide, like I didn't want to be a bum. I didn't want to leash off my wife, So like poker was nothing more than a way to show that I'm not a bum. It was not, at that point, there was no joy in the game at all. And it got even worse that once I graduated in 2009, I had a great job lined up as a prosecutor up in Michigan. I was like, hey, we're going to go be the lawyer thing. And I was up in Michigan on my birthday. I get a call, the state of Michigan or, Detroit went bankrupt and the state of Michigan went bankrupt. It was just 2009. I can remember when everything went to hell. And so I just got a call. They're like, hey, sorry, that job you had just isn't going to exist anymore. And so I'm up and this is before I took the bar exam. So I'm like literally up in Michigan and getting ready to take the bar exam. And they tell me, hey, the job's gone. So take the bar exam, pass it, but there's no jobs up in Michigan anywhere. So I come back down to Florida and I had to take the Florida bar. And this whole time I'm playing poker, trying to make ends meet, hating every second of it. I pass the Florida bar. I get still can't find a job. Still grinding poker, hating it. I finally get a job, and I last, I think, 2 months.
Wow.
And it doesn't work. And at this point, this is like the low point where my wife's like, "What did I marry?" You know? At this point, like I'm just looking at a screen playing poker, going like, it's the stand-in for all personal failure at this point, right? And so I had a moment where I just took all my money off. I hit my parents up for $5,000, and I was like, and I took that money and I opened up a law office. And so it's actually, so I opened up a law office, Hogan Law PLC. That was me, and left poker, and that was the end of poker. And this would have been 2010 or whatever. And
question before we continue, I just want to know. You didn't tell us why you hated poker. So first of all, were you profitable in any of those years? So you were grinding.
Yeah, I am like always making money. Not like my goal was always to, this sounds, I don't know the right word is, but my goal was always to make more than my wife, so I didn't feel like a bum. And so I was able to do that for all years except for, I think, 2. The one, like my second year of law school, definitely not, and there might be one other one in there. But yeah.
I have 2 questions, Ryan. Yeah. So when was the first year being profitable? And when you said you always made money, we're talking how much money on average, monthly or yearly? Like,
So actually, this is a little bit of a fun conversation because people probably won't remember this because this is like really going back. But obviously, my first couple years, I'm winning beer money, right? I win money, I go spend it at the bar, and you kind of see the thing. I'm up with
$46.
Yeah. But then when online happened, things merged into what you call rakeback horing, and you could actually, and so this is kind of just a very different mindset. But there was a very much concerted mindset back then where if you had an edge in a game, instead of like now, it was like, well, move up to the next game, make more money. That's great. But actually, what you could do for more, if you got to make the rent money and you can't miss, it's much better to keep adding tables until your earn rate gets so down, but it's guaranteed income in the form of rakeback. So I was doing a lot of that, and I was just like massive multi-tabling and just living off the rakeback, which was like really cool, especially when you got Supernova. It got pretty good. And so it was this consistent income. It wasn't great. I was trapped. There were handcuffs. Like I'm never moving up in stakes, but I could pay the rent, and that mattered, And so that was kind of like my poker career. And so there was no love of the game. There was no like one day I'm gonna.
It was just volume.
Yeah, it was a very, very tedious job that I did not like. But
the sites now do like they still do rakeback. Like ACR might do like a 27% flat rakeback, and if you grind a ton, you can get that up to like 40%. From my understanding, back in the day, that like Supernova was getting you like above 50% rakeback. Yeah, and I think Supernova Elite might be higher.
Yeah,
but so I think there's some people who still just rakeback grind, but they tend to be from like Bulgaria or Latvia or somewhere where like 12K a year is like
like the days where you could like grind 40 50K a year being a rakeback horde. Those
I think now like the best
thing,
so the best now might get like 20K out of it or 25K per year, but their win rate's like 0.
Exactly. The goal is like if you're winning, like that's like the sign you need to add more tables. You got some room to maneuver here. So that was basically my first poker career, and it ended with me hating poker. And so I was out of poker for a decade, 10 years, just done.
By the way, this is all news to me about your come up. I didn't know you have that background of online and that much volume. This is crazy. I thought you just came to the scene like 3-4 years ago. Questions. When you were grinding that much, was there any studying going on, or you didn't even have time to study between the law school and grinding like 8-9 hours a day?
So this is another thing that I think is kind of fun to think about, is that things were all right. So studying back then, and this actually carries over to this day, how I approach studying on some stuff, which is really weird. But back then, because a lot of people say, well, if I was playing back in the moneymaker boom, I would have crushed. I would have done all this. You probably wouldn't have, because a lot of people, the way they learn now is through outside sources. They can, they get, coaching, or they get talk with their friends, whatever they may be doing. But back then, the thing to understand was that it was medicine in the dark ages. You were much, much more likely to come out more harmed for having to improve your game than you were like, having done it. And so, like, especially with like limit hold'em, I had an insight on the game back then that basically, like, I couldn't articulate it. I didn't really understand what I was talking about because I didn't understand poker in depth enough. But basically what was happening is the game had gotten so nitty, so taggy, that no one had ever had board coverage. And so you ended up in this scenario where there are certain boards you could just freaking hammer and just be an absolute maniac on, because they just never had board coverage. And I just didn't understand that. I didn't understand range advantage or nut advantages. I just knew there was some disturbance in how the population was playing, and I was just exploiting that to no end. But and that edge for me actually went away over time, because I would start talking to other poker players, and they would like, the variance is getting you. You're just going to get lucky, because I couldn't articulate what I was doing. And so over time, by studying with really good players and stuff, my game actually got worse. And it's something that's always kind of stuck with me, where I'm always like really hesitant on some stuff, because it's like, I know what I know. And I carry it over, and I know it's wrong, but that actually kind of carry over into how I would approach it my second time around, in terms of, I got a coach, one person that I trust, and that's it.
Okay, let's talk timeline, Ryan.
Yeah.
So the online went from like 2000 to 2009 between.
Yeah.
Okay, that stretch. And then you said you hated it because of the volume. You're not making that much money, and it becomes tedious. Like if it feels like a job and the fun goes away, it is just, once poker is not fun anymore, I don't think you're not going to be profitable. You have to love it. You have to enjoy playing. So that stretch from 2000 to 2009, there was no breakthroughs. You were just living off of rakeback, paying rent, trying to do whatever it takes to just pay the bills, and putting volume in. So you said there was a break after 2009. What was the break?
Yeah, I took a decade off. I went
off.
Yeah, I ran my law office. And then at some point, I kind of learned I was somewhat entrepreneurial, and I started up orthopedic cushion company called Desk Jockey. You see those dealers that show up with the cushions?
Yeah.
That was me. So yeah, that, like, a lot of those designs are me, which is always so weird.
What made you start that company?
That's a whole long story. Very long story short is, when I opened up my law office, I had no money, right? I borrowed $5,000 from my parents, plus the $5,000 I had left over in my thing that I had no money. I didn't know anybody in Florida, right? So I was like, how do I run a law office? And so I learned how to do internet stuff. Like, I learned how to internet marketing. And so, like, SEO and stuff. So, like, when you, like, back in that era, if you ever Googled bankruptcy attorney, even if you're in Seattle, Washington, my name would come up.
That was my next question, is what the type of law you practice?
So again, 2009, 2010 in Florida. So I did bankruptcy, foreclosure, defense, because that was the big hot thing back then. I was a bankruptcy attorney for quite a few years, and just doing the internet marketing side, and I was good at it. And I liked it a lot better because the stakes were lower. The one problem I didn't like about being a lawyer that I learned about myself is I always carried all of my clients' problems with me. And so then the better you got, the more customers you got, the more clients you got, more problems you got. And so I kind of had a problem where I was just basically telling my wife, I'm like, I'm not going to see 40. I'm going to have a heart attack. And like, I'm just not going to make it. And so I started out on the side, this orthopedic cushion company, and it took off, and so that was good. And I was like, all right, I'm not doing the law thing anymore. I want to like grow old. And so I ran that company until 2009, and I sold it. So once I sold it, I was kind of bumming around the house, and it was kind of a low point. Like, I'm not I'm a happy-go-lucky type of person, but after that period, I was just like, what am I doing? You know, and really on a lark, I just got in my car one day and started driving. And next thing I know, I was at the Tampa Hard Rock, and this would have been November of 2019. And walked into the poker room. I guess I'm gonna play some cash. I don't know, you know. And I saw there was a tournament going. I was like, oh, I'll go play in the tournament. And so I jumped in that and I started playing. I was having fun. I was like, this is great. Like I couldn't remember. Like everything was so foggy. It'd been a decade. And at some point, the guy next to me was talking about how they got to come back on Sunday. I'm like, what? Like,
it's a 2-day.
This is a multi-day tournament. I'm like, my wife doesn't even know I'm here. I'm like, I can't. So you know, that was the end of that. You know, so, and but I got home and I was like, you know what? Maybe because I should say at that point I was like kind of looking back on some stuff, and I did have a lot of regrets about how I approached poker back then, because it was like I was one of the few people in the right place at the right time who had a big edge in the game, and I didn't take advantage of it like at all. And it was one of those things that's like, man, could have been me, should have been me, you know, like yeah. So like it was just like I had that thing. I was like, so I told my wife, like we had this deal after I sold my company. We're each gonna buy one extravagant thing that we would never buy for otherwise buy. So she got a car, and I was like, you know what? I want to throw some bucks at some tournaments, and so that was my thing. And so
hold that thought. So recap: 2000 to 2009 online grind. Huge break, about 10 years, and you just pursuing the cushion company, the orthopedic cushion. And that went well. You walk into the Hard Rock 2020. So we're gonna put your.
It would have been 29 November 2019, I believe.
We're gonna put your hand and mob under the microscope.
Sure.
This is Ryan Hogan's hand and mob. First recorded score, February of 2020, right before COVID, a month before COVID. 600 no limit hold'em double stack. You cash, you get 71st place. This is a multi-day, and then right away February, like not even 2 weeks after, second place for 21K.
I think it was the last tournament that they had before COVID.
Look who's first, Jose.
Yeah, look who's at the final table, Carl.
Don't tell me I was there.
No, you were there.
Oh shit.
Let me tell you a fun story about you, Carl.
Let's hear it. So Ryan, you got second for 21. I'm guessing you guys chopped.
Yep. Yeah, and I did not know, because I never actually played a live. Well, I played the World Series of Poker main event before, but I never really played live tournaments. And so I thought when I agreed to the chop that we were chopping the money, we were going to play for the trophy. Next thing I know, Santos is walking off with the trophy. I'm like, what the hell?
That's the most. It happened to me once.
I learned a valuable lesson that day.
I chopped with, and I had the chip lead with Silva. What's his name? Jerry.
Yeah.
And I had the chip lead, so I get the trophy. And he came to the picture. He wanted to take the picture together. I said, Jerry, they don't take pictures of two people. One person have to be. And he wanted to fight it, but it just, yeah. He wanted the trophy too. I'm like, Jerry, I have the chip lead. I'm gonna take the picture. So anyway, yeah, tell me the story. You said you have a story.
So yeah, I was at the final table. We all are, and break hits, and I'm going to the bathroom, and I walk out. Oh, sorry, I should back up. At some point at that final table, Song O there raises under the gun. I 3-bet him under gun +1, goes, and we were both had the chip lead. We were 1 and 2, and goes, folds around. Song ships it. And I tank forever.
What do you have?
Queen.
Okay, yeah, it's a tank spot for sure.
Yeah, I tank, and I finally fold it heads up, face up, and it turns out he had aces, you know. And you know, people are like, oh, whatever, and that was like the last hand before break. So
and you
we
get
go
second.
on break. We go on break, and I'm going to the bathroom, and I walk out, turn the corner, and there's Carl talking to somebody, going, "Yeah, it's not like he's good though." Guys, did you see that shit
about you?
King 10?
That's funny.
Talking about you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Dude,
damn.
That's so funny. I think I told it before to Carl. Like, when I moved here, I kind of had the same experience where like I was between Carl and Jeremy, and I went to the bathroom on break. I come back, and as I come back, I hear Carl. They're talking, and they're like, "Is he new here?" And like I'm like, "You guys talking about me?" And because I think I commented on Carl like check raising like 3 times. I was like, "No check raise this time," and Carl was like, "Oh, this kid's paying attention. Who is he?" Kind of thing. But I had the same thing. They're talking about me. I'm like, cool.
Man, we do talk shit. We do talk shit on bathroom breaks.
So anyways, that was my first interaction with you, Carl.
Not a good one.
I don't even remember the King 10 hand, but apparently I did something with King 10. I don't know what it was. I'm sure I was out of line though.
Oh, yeah, you've always been out of line. All right, let's keep checking the hand mob. So second for 21K. Here you're showing consistency. 2020, look at the break between February and August. Yeah, this is when they reopen here. We're playing with masks. Then you get first place in the Winter Poker Open, event 3.
That was a circus. Remember, everyone came from everywhere because that was like the only series that played that entire year.
Yeah.
Field.
2020 was rough for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the main one. Maxwell Young won it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He busted me. That's one of my most painful bust outs. That wasn't even like a bad beat or anything, but just to get that deep, that one stung. Because like I had, yeah, it's like in my mind, I was like, man, I wanted a 6-figure score, and which I still don't have. But like that one haunted me for a bit. I was like, yeah. We had to blind versus blind. I was pretty short, or whatever. It was just like a standard hand, but just the bust out hurt.
Let's see the average per year. So 2020, 58K, because I mean we played like what, 5 months, 6 months out of the year, and then 2021 you go up to 122K. Look at the progression: 58, 122, 153. Those are big numbers. 2020. And then 2024, you have 73K already, and we're not even 4 months in. What's your biggest score? 72K. Let's talk about that score. Let's see what tournament that was.
You could filter
yeah, that was 2022, maybe.
I think 2021. I looked it up yesterday. I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, there it is.
2021. Ryan Hogan, Greg. This is Hollywood, right?
Hollywood. This was a pretty fun one because Kevin was there. Gone Bananas, online Gone Bananas. I was Go Banana. I don't really play a lot online, but of the Banana Boys, we were the Banana Boys. That's pretty fun.
Tell us about this. Any were you short at all?
Yes, I was down to 1 big blind in this tournament actually, and sick. I did a bluff. I think I had. Yeah, we had a blind versus blind hand. I started the hand with, I think, 6 bigs, got to the river, and I bet, I think, 3. It was like a small pot or whatever, but I bet 3 big blinds instead of 4. Or maybe it was whatever it was. It was a small bet because in a smaller pot, but I didn't get it all in. And so I saved that one big blind, and I spun it up, which was nice. The final table was kind of weird in the sense that I was giving people were really thinking I was like a barbecue dad and giving me way too much credit for the ranges I was playing. So I definitely got away with quite a few bluffs, and then still managed to get paid off on value, which is always the winning combination. And yeah, it was just a good grind. I was actually pretty talented final table. There's a lot of good players at that one. But yeah, I won it, so that was cool. I was a pretty big fan of that. Oh, I took a bad deal. I'm sorry, I didn't win that outright. I took a chop. Because I wanted a trophy, and I took a bad deal, knowing full well at the time I was taking a bad deal, but I wanted a spade trophy, and I was just like, you know what? Because I had a chip lead, I probably would have won anyways. But it was one of those things where I knew I was going to go on life tilt if I did not end up with the trophy, so it was like worth it to me at the point.
Is it in the background?
What's that?
Is it in your background right now?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's this one right here. I'm a big fan of trophies. I am unabashedly proud of trophies. I do not.
Did they give you a second one
Those
because it was a WPT?
No, they just gave me this one.
Oh,
Yeah.
now they give two.
Oh,
They
really?
give you the Hard Rock and a WPT. Yeah.
We're gonna have to win tomorrow and get one of those. But yeah, I like trophies. I on a bet. I would like. I don't understand that people win a bracelet and they don't even know where it's at. I will never understand that. Like, if I win a bracelet, I'm never taking it off. I'm going to.
are you wearing it, huh?
Oh yeah, I'm not even a jewelry guy. I mean, like, but yeah, I mean, like, all day. Come on.
Okay, so so now I mean, I didn't know you have that background. That all the volume online definitely helps. Let's talk Faraz Jaka, or before we mention Faraz Jaka, what was the pivotal moment in 2020 when you came back that took you to that next level?
It was really just when I went out and played. I was having fun. It was, but it was also I had a realization like I was super fuzzy. Like it was like I couldn't remember crap. I'm like, oh, it was like one of those, but also like holy crap.
Fuzzy as far as focus at the table?
No, fuzzy is in like it's been so long since I played. It wasn't like jumping on a bike. I just could. There's spots. I'm like, God, I can't remember. You know, I just couldn't think through the problems. And obviously, it was coming. You know, back then everything was automated. Like I played so much volume that I just didn't really think. So to be in the spots where like I don't know what to do. But even then, I could tell like, wow, I thought the game had passed me by. I really just had in my mind. I heard that poker got really hard. And like all the guys I looked up to back then, like I said, I started as a poker fan. They're all gone. You know, no one made it. And so like I just had this opinion, like the game's gone. I will never be a winning poker player again. You know, those days are over. But now I sit at the table, I'm like, wait a minute here. I think I might have another ride in me. You know, I might be able to do this. And like, and I already sold my company. I was feeling a little lost. And I was like, you know what? This might be a hard challenge that might be fun to try to go after. And so that's really what happened. I was like, all right. And I should preface this by saying it was not an easy conversation with my wife. Like, because my wife remembered poker as being a negative thing because it was. And she's like, you really want to go back to that, you know? And it was a hard sell. It was one of those things where I was like, I'm just going to stick my toe in. I'm not going to make a big commitment to this. I'm going to play a couple tournaments. If it goes well, we'll keep going. If not, back out the door. And so, but thankfully things started going well right away. So
okay, let's dive in a little bit in the strategy. So back in the internet days, how deep did you get in the theory as far as like, are you a math guy first of all? Were you always good with numbers?
People will say I'm a math guy. I don't think I'm a math guy because there's a level of precision to math that I'm good at shotgunning numbers. I'm not good at giving you an exact number. Right.
Okay, let's do a before and after, or not before and after. Just compare what your knowledge was back in 2000 to 2009 as far as strategy is concerned. What studying have you done back in those days, and then we're gonna compare it to what studying you've done now, like to stay relevant. So 2000 to 2009, how deep did you get in the lab as far as?
Yeah, actually, I should say like I was part of some pretty legendary study groups. Like with Dan Smith and
you were talking with those guys,
Andrew Roble. Yeah, I'll tell you have to have me back on the pod, and I'll tell you an Andrew Roble story. That's pretty good. We used to have ALS Messenger, and so I should say like the whole concept of like ICM, for example, that came out of the single table tournament community when we were working at like start off on this concept of like a gigabet and all this stuff. But actually, as a side note. The whole phrasing "eventually you will run worse than you ever thought was possible" that actually comes from Irie Guy from our STT stuff. So that's back then. And so I was really deep in single table tournament theory, but I eventually would leave single table tournaments and just go play limit. And I did a fair amount, but I on the limit stuff, but. I look back at it, and it's still to this day I kind of carry it forward. Every limit hold'em study I've ever done.
Walk us through when you say study, like the ABC. What did you study? Like as far as math is concerned, the basic.
I have to remember all the old tools. We had tools. We did have tools. we could do ranges. Like I can't remember the calculators that we used to use, but we would have calculators where you could build ranges. It's kind of pretty similar to
Equilab
Hogan Resources calculator now.
HRC.
Really rudimentary, but you could run things back then. We did have ranges, and that's actually what it came down to. Single table tournaments really was like being horrible at no limit hold'em until you got to the understanding push-up charts, and then you just kind of take it over from there. But you could get really good at understanding how equities run against ranges, and that's really where that just came from. And just understanding, it wasn't called ICM back then, but understanding that there was a difference between tournament dollars and real dollars. And if you understood that, you had a huge edge over everybody else.
That's like the whole edge in sit and goes is like, because everyone, like, it's just 9 people in the tournament and 3 cash. And that, like, the whole goal is getting top 3. Like, all your ROI comes from that. So, like, any 4th or 5th place you get is terrible. And the game's just trying to get more thirds than everybody else, kind of. And then, like, 1st and 2nd's, like, extra.
That's exactly. Yeah. So I actually was never a very good no limit hold'em player, mostly because I was a limit player, and I literally had to figure out how to play limit hold'em before I could get good at no limit. But yeah, it's one of those things where you could like just be horrible at no limit hold'em, and then once you got down to 5 players, as long as you had everything else, you'd be fine.
Okay, so you did some studying back then. You were in the lab talking with the top guys, basically. Back in those days, as limited as that was back in those days, before charts, before solvers, before the game was actually broken down. Come to 2020, you dive back in the game and you're like, okay, I have something going on here. I could beat this game, because as we know, live poker is still alive and well. Like, the stuff we see at the tables, it's insane. So 2020 comes back. When did you start getting back in the lab, and when did Faraz Jaka comes into
so COVID basically. I cashed those tournaments, and I realized I was playing street poker, a lot of street poker. I still had my field from that. But my underpinnings was I just knew that I was bad at theory side. Like I had lost.
When you say street poker, playing online, you're not playing, you don't have reads, all these aspects goes out the window because you're playing online. You don't see.
I think Shane would agree. There's still room for some street poker in that.
There's some tells. There's some tells online, timing tells and stuff, but you're not sitting across from the guy looking him, eye to eye. So how good are you with people? Why were you good live, since you don't have that background?
Yeah, I mean that's good. I actually am still horrible at reads, and I will purposely not go with reads a lot just because I don't trust myself. I'm not very good at reading people. But so anyways, COVID happened, and everyone was sitting around doing nothing, and that's when I bought Pio. I got a run at once account, a poker coaching account. I just started studying a lot. And I started playing online. I never trusted Nagy, so I was playing on GG Poker. I was doing pretty darn well on there.
Damn, shots fired at Nagy.
Everyone fires at Nagy.
Yeah. So anyways, I was VPNing on there until I doing well, took some money off, doing well, took some more money off. They're like, hey, looks like you're VPNing. So, and this is during COVID. And so and I was like, no, I'm in Canada. They're like, prove it. And so I thought this was super smart. I rented an Airbnb in Canada, even though I couldn't go to it, and gave them the receipt. And that worked. I'm like, yay. So got to take more money off. But then I want more, and I tried to take a lot off. And they're like,
what format are you playing at this point?
These are tournaments. Yeah, all tournaments.
Tournaments.
Yeah,
so multi-table. Multi-table.
And I'll probably always be like this. I'm never really going to be a cash grinder. Because it just brings back those days, and I just don't want to. Yeah, it's kind of negative. So I'm probably always going to be a cash guy, or not a cash guy, but a tournament guy. But yeah. So I was doing well on GG until they shut me down. And it was roughly right around that point of COVID, I actually reached out to Faraz.
Why Faraz of all
he wasn't the only one I reached out to. Actually, I reached out to quite a few different people and kind of talked about like, hey, I'm looking for coaching, one-on-one coaching. I talked to a couple people, and I don't want to like bring anybody up, but like just the fit wasn't right, and I knew right away with Faraz, like, boom, my guy. And so I hired him for direct one-on-one.
But my question, why Faraz? Did you think his style like fits your play style, or
what I knew I didn't have was solver logic. And so what I was looking very specifically for, because I had Pi, I was having trouble running it and really getting much out of it. And so I was like, I need someone who had solver cred, but wasn't just going to do hand histories with me. Like I'm not like I need to understand how the solver's thinking. I don't really care about this hand that I'm never going to play again.
So if you're thinking along these lines, if I'm thinking solvers, I'm thinking Duck Polk, because he's like the most studied, most like he's top of the food chain kind of guy. Faraz Jaka would be the last one to come to mind.
Really? Yeah. See, like I wouldn't go with Doug Polk because he's a heads up guy. You know, I'm looking for an MTT guy. So yeah, he passed my solver criteria. You know, I guess it's Faraz now. But I didn't know. I should say I didn't know of the toilet back then. I've played in the streets with him before, so I already had like respect for his game. So I guess that was part of it as well. But yeah, but I just knew right away that he was the guy. And so hired him directly one-on-one. And the criteria I gave him was, like I said, I wasn't interested in hand histories. I needed to learn solver logic because I needed to get my underpinnings better. And a lot of just me and him going over stuff I was like, give me the low-hanging fruit. Like, what's the stuff that's going to happen over and over again, and we'll just go from there. So we started off with cutoff versus the big blind, both sides, right? All right, now I understand. Because I'm all forest, no trees. Meaning, like, I don't do details. I need to see. I'm always big picture thinker. So and so I needed to bridge my training that way, where I had to come at the understanding how does a solver come to its answer before I don't care about any individual answer. I need the whole picture. And so that's where Faraz really helped me with. It was just me and him. This is before he started the school or anything like that. It was just me and him through COVID and getting in the weeds on solvers and really going into solver logic and why does a solver do what it does, and then just branching out from there. So to add more spots and this, that, and kind of all came together. And so by the time the open back up, where we're playing live again, I had my underpinnings. And so
how many hours do you think you got one-on-one with Jaka?
Good question. A lot. 30, 40. Yeah, it was quite a few hours.
Wow. How much was he charging back in those days?
A lot. He was charging a lot. It was not cheap. It was definitely, I mean, you could have a lifetime membership on Jaka coaching and not reach what I gave him. But it was worth every penny. I mean, like,
when I would say a lot, is it $200 an hour, $300 an hour?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Right in that range.
That's not too much for getting. I mean, you're getting coaching from one of the crushers. Let's watch a hand real quick with the toilet.
Okay, can I say something on Faraz?
Sure, send it.
So I'm kind of like 2020, 2021 is when I got back into poker and very good. And at the time I was like splitting like a poker coaching membership, pokercoaching.com, Jonathan Little, with my guy who I study with now, Rock. And we like COVID opened us up and we were gonna fire a live tournament. I was living in Vegas at the time at like the Venetian, like our first live tournament. We're both like relatively broke, him especially, and it was like a $400 tournament. But poker coaching had a Faraz video because I think before he had his own like sign up shit, he just like made videos for poker coaching, and it was on live tells, and we watched it like 3 times, the whole like live tell video before we played our tournament. So we kind of like we liked him too. I still have nothing against him or anything, but the story is kind of funny because we used to like his videos on poker coaching, and then that same friend one day satellited into a 215 on ACR, a 215 1 mil, and at the time his average buy-in was like $5. So this is like his biggest tournament he's played like ever.
Here we go.
And he plays a hand where he's kind of shallow. He's like 20 bigs, and under the gun opens, and my friend 3-bets like ace 5 offsuit or ace 5 suited +1, so they're both EP. And under the gun calls, and it comes like ace 4 9, and under the gun checks. My friend bets a third, and then under the gun check jams on him, and my friend folds his ace 5, his like top pair, and then the other person who check jammed showed a 5, so it was like ace 4 7. And he check jammed with a 5, and my friend is like, "What the fuck is this?"
That do that?
And he like sends me the hand history, and I'm like, "Oh, that's the toilet." And he's like, "What does that mean?" And I'm like, "That's Faraz Jaka. That's the guy we watched some of his videos." He goes, "Why the fuck does he have a 5? He either has 4-5 suited and it's dumb, or he has ace 5 and it's dumb too. He's like, why do you do that? My friend was like so mad about it. And since then, like between him and I, Faraz has been just like we don't even think he's bad. He's winning and shit. We just like kind of hate him a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me show you this.
He's definitely unorthodox.
Oh,
that's for sure.
One sec. Let me.
Brings the pain. Oh, that's awesome.
So I've got his when he won his WSOP bracelet. Him and I both got that photo on our wall to like remember that like we got a he's got a bracelet, we don't. We got to fucking get a bracelet.
You need like some candles around there, like style.
And so since then we've kind of like he's been our enemy and he doesn't even know it. We just like that one hand.
In tournaments, you got to get out of line. He
made my buddy fold an ace.
You need to get when you get that deep into the population psyche, you're doing something.
Yeah.
Let's see your buddy the toilet, what he's doing here.
Cards and will raise the 1,500.
Jaka raising under the gun with nothing. He's a cagey young American.
Yeah.
It was fold is nothing. Or which out of the way.
These short-handed tables do favor aggressive players.
Queen 10 for Lemke in the small blind goes into the muck. Negreanu now in the big blind. Daniel looks down at Jack 10 off.
Daniel usually adept at feeding off of aggressive players.
You got plenty, right?
Okay, I gotta preface this. Like, this is why I like Doug Polk's method. Doug Polk would never do something like that. Like, he's so theoretical, and he'll look at this hand and he'll be like, look at this, and never do this again. Like, because he's very theoretical. Like, you can get out of line with certain hands, like if you want to play loose, but 10-4, he's never doing this, and he is never advocating this. But our boy, the toilet, does it, and it works for him somehow.
27-ish.
Jaka has
whenever you see Faraz with both chips in his hand,
900 to call.
Say that again.
So whenever you see Faraz he's shuffling with both hands, get ready. Raise is coming.
Oh, he's shuffling with both hands? I missed that.
9 King Jack, middle pair, and a gut shot for Daniel Negreanu. He checks.
Oh, yeah, he is shuffling two hands.
Jaka with the same gut shot straight draw as Daniel, bets 2,500. Daniel check calls. Turn card now. 5 of clubs. Negreanu's still best, and he checks.
Well, let's see if Jaka wants to continue.
I mean, you have to triple this off. You can't just open this and not triple this off.
See that look that Jaka has on his face? It reminds me a lot of you, Ryan. You have that evil look. I don't know how to describe if it's evil, but you know you're about to do something out of line, and then when you do have it, you get paid off. Like, you know, remember when you 4-bet me with aces not even a month ago? Like, when you have a big hand, you're gonna get paid. Having that factor, or having that knowledge that this person gets out of line a lot, when you do have it, you get max.
Getting overpaid is very.
Yes, and you got over. What did I have when you had aces? I had ace king, I think, or ace queen.
I don't remember. Yeah, it was a cooler. It wasn't like you weren't calling like light or anything like that. It was just.
I had queens.
Yeah, it was a straight cooler.
Yeah.
You just splash around with squadouche.
Yeah, big splash. 5,500 chips.
That's a third of Daniel's remaining chips. This is either fold or shove for him. Maybe his trap is in the repair shop.
Okay, I'm sorry I keep interrupting the video, but remember those days when they say, oh, it's either a shove or fold. Like, these days, there's no such thing as shove or fold. I've said it for years before this. There's always a call. Like, call is always an option. There's no such thing as shove or fold.
This actually has a pretty good example why poker was more television friendly back then. I mean, solvers are actually way more aggressive, I think, than people give it them credit for. But these are the fun hands, man. Like,
another thing. Those days, there's no pot size on the screen. There's no stack size on the screen.
Yeah, and they used to do a lot of small bets. So you like bet, raise. That makes for good TV.
Yeah,
they used to click buttons so much, even pre-flop. The 5-bet, 6-bet, that went out the window. Nobody does that anymore.
Yeah.
Because Daniel doesn't look like he's about to check raise right here.
Daniel, wow, lays down the best hand.
Why would Daniel call the bet on the flop and then fold on the turn? His read on Jaka's hand way off.
Norman, there's something in the northeast air thwarting Daniel's radar. He is befuddled by the wily play of Faraz Jaka.
They also did all this.
Buchanan lead the bounty
they
race
broke down
right
the
now
hands.
with
Like all this
4
is
each.
edited. They don't like a 6-hour live stream of a final.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this
Yeah.
is produced content. This is it's so fun to watch this stuff. And nowadays they're just like, oh, put it on live. We'll give them the whole 10-hour stream instead of releasing it 2 weeks later edited.
Yeah, people go back and watch this old stuff because it stands the test of time. No one's gonna be going back and watching, the
Triton main event.
3 or 4 years.
The commentary makes it so entertaining. Lon McCarron and Norman Chad, they do such a good job. It's entertaining to watch.
Ace Jack of hearts in the small blind.
Before becoming a pro, Vasquez worked for a
Team Lucky.
drywall company. And
Say that again.
Matt Glantz, Team Lucky, right? He won the.
Oh my God! When he picked that $1 million bounty,
come on.
he got so much hate over it.
Or one of the blinds. Stein folds his big blind. Glance gets out of the way.
Jaka's managed to get heads up against the best hand.
It is Queen 5 Jack. Jaka with top pair. Vasquez hits middle pair.
Why wouldn't Jaka outflop him? That's all he ever does is outflop his opponent.
Vasquez checks, and Jaka checks quickly behind him. Turn card, another Jack. Vasquez with trip jacks, and now he has a big advantage. And he's going to bet it 11,000. Lewis has some support here in the room. Friend Tony Montero.
11,000.
Jaka with a pair of queens makes the call.
Jaka's got to think he's still good.
His friend doesn't look too comfortable. River card now is a 6. Vasquez has this hand locked up with a trip jacks. And he's going to bet those jacks. A little less than half the pot, 19,000. Faraz Jaka now with a big raise, 81,000.
Look at this guy in the blender.
This is insane what happens here.
Wait, this guy folds?
He folds.
Oh my God.
Vasquez not sure he's
This
best.
is a man who's
Is he
overvaluing
thinking
his tournament life.
Oh my God.
Jaka's raise is for almost all of Vasquez's remaining chips, but even if Vasquez thought he was beat here, he's got a call, no?
He is squirming. So few hands beat it, but he's going to lay it down, Norman.
Wow.
Ace Jack.
Folds it, shows it, and tells the table.
My goodness. Jaka's heavy pressure convinces Vasquez to fold. And Jaka shows the tray.
Shows him the tray.
Shane, what's your take on showing the bluff?
I think I need to do it more. I think it's great. I think showing nitty folds, like that, showing ace jack is far worse than showing a 3. Like showing the 3 gives you action, and it like keeps people like annoyed and shit. But showing ace jack is
Like, I can run this guy over now.
That is valuable because I've never heard it before, and I always known it. Like even in cash games or in tournaments, when you make a big fold, don't show it, because now, especially if Ryan is at the table, a guy that would exploit you even if you're loose.
Pain train's coming, buddy. Get ready.
And now, bang bang. Now he knows that you're folding, like making tight folds. He's gonna exploit the shit out of you. Like you don't show somebody like Ryan a tight fold, because now he knows you're capable of big folds, and he's gonna put so much pressure on you. So you never, Shane, you nailed it. Yeah. Never show big folds. You're better off showing bluffs than showing big folds. This is free information for the audience. All right. We went off the deep end here. Ryan, we have a bunch of questions for you.
All right.
So Faraz Jaka, you're saying 40 hours one-on-one. How much?
Yeah, I'm going off the top of the head. Maybe
you don't have to be exact, but I mean that's a big volume of one-on-one. So how much did that change your game? How did you incorporate what you learned from him into your game?
Yeah. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The single most important and best poker decision I ever made was making him my coach. Like that really absolutely changed my game dramatically. Like I was always good at like this, like I could always play street poker. I was good at, I could win net poker, but the under really cemented the foundation. Like it completely changed it. It completely rebuilt my foundation. And from that, everything kind of like went from there. So yeah, single most important thing I ever did was say, you're the guy. And he like basically rebuilt me from scratch.
Tell us three things that three things that he added to your game that took your game to the next level. Is it pre-flop?
Okay, yeah.
Is it ICM? Is it short stacking? Like 3 things or 2 things that you remember.
No, actually, yeah. So both ICM and short stacking are probably the 2 things that I do that are not Jaka.
Not Jaka. Okay.
But no, basically the biggest is in terms of thinking. How I think about the game is really the cornerstone. So I think the number 1 mistake Recs make is they think in terms of their hand. And poker is a very, very different game than whatever hand you have. It's you have to think in terms of all possibilities all the time. So when I think about poker, I think about entireties of ranges, entireties of their ranges, and how those ranges are interacting over the board. And that's a completely different way to approach poker. It's a completely different way to think about poker. And I never would have been able to think like that unless when I was working on one-on-one, he would like stop right here, name all the hands. And we'd have to name all the hands. All right, what are all his hands? Name all of his hands. All right, now how are those ranges interacting? And that drilling completely changed how I think about the game. So I just don't, where before I'd be like, I wonder what he has. Like I never really think like that anymore because I'm thinking about, okay, how are these ranges interacting? And it's just a very different way to approach the game than I was doing before. So yeah,
very interesting.
That'd be my main
very interesting. I subscribe to a guy that's putting out content that's valuable right now. And he made a comment that actually changed my outlook on the game because I've always thought about, after my background is Upswing, like that took my game to the next level. And Upswing always taught you to think about along ranges. And my coaching is based on that, always range versus range. He said that don't think too much about range versus range and think about sometimes your actual hand versus amateurs. Like when you're playing a complete amateur, think about your actual hand, how it's going to perform on a certain board and not your whole overall range. And it actually blew my mind because everybody since solvers came about, they tell you, range versus range. So you're opening early and the flop comes like ace high, king high, queen high. We're attacking those boards because they favor our range. We have nut advantage so he went more the other route saying think about your actual hand, how it's going to perform. So for example, like low boards, we're not like c-betting 100 when it comes like coordinated low board versus big blind, just because our range, like we have the range advantage but we don't have the nut advantage. If it comes like 5 6 7, like you have the range advantage but you don't have the nut advantage because you don't have that many.
Watch out for the check raise.
They have all the straights. You don't. You have some sets, but you just don't have the nut advantage. This guy is saying like, because like based on Upswing on a 5 6 7, I would mostly check, even if I have sets sometimes, just because that board doesn't favor my range. And you'll be surprised how many mistakes the amateurs will make if you check that board when you do have it. And talking about board coverage too, it's nice to, you have that a lot in your game. You have board coverage because you're opening a wide range of hands. Like you open the 8-9 suited, sometimes 8-9 off. You get out of line a little bit and you have more board coverage than somebody that's like strictly GTO. Yeah, but I just wanted to mention that guy talking.
Yeah, actually, I would piggyback on that a little bit. It's actually, I would actually agree with what he's saying because if you think about like moving up in stakes, right? In terms of like, what are the difference between the lowest, buy-ins and the highest buy-ins? And I think a lot of people think like, well, I earn chips at this rate, or I'm earning chips doing that. And I think that's just kind of fundamentally wrong in the sense that at the lowest levels, you're not really earning chips. You're just in a position to collect chips from the grave mistakes that your opponents are making. And as you move up in stakes, those mistakes get less and less and less to the point where, yes, now you have to start earning chips. And so you earn the chips through like a more balanced GTO strategy. But once you're down here, it's about catching punts, And so, yeah, you don't need to be thinking that much about ranges and how they're coordinating so much as putting yourself in a position for this person to make a horrible mistake and you can catch their punt. And so it's like
another
point, you move up, that gets less and less and less,
Another valuable point that I heard, and it actually was mind-blowing, it was the controversial, what's his name? He's family. I was talking with on the Antoine Bunkley podcast. It's the controversial. Maurice Hawkins. I heard his podcast on Poker Ain't Life. By the way, shout out to these guys. They have a podcast, and they had Maurice on, and he was talking about. He said poker is simple when you're playing against amateurs. It's about you having a better hand and charging them the max when they have the second bet. Like it's not about bluffing. It's not about getting out of line. And think about it. Like that's where your value comes from. Like the big pots.
It's coming from their mistakes, not because
it's about making a hand and them having a second best, and you're charging them the max. And knowing how to get max value, which you and Shane know how to get max value. You'll be surprised how many amateurs they get to the turn or the river. They have the best hand. They check, and the amateur checks behind. It's the amateur that never putting money in the pot unless they have it, but they might have a second best that would pay you off. They check, and the amateur checks back, and they'd be like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna bet," and they'll show you like the nuts. And the other guy shows this very strong hand that would have called like a half pot or 70% pot bet. So.
But yeah, that's really how chips are actually getting accumulated, is that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people think I'm out there doing this and I'm doing that. At the lower stakes, no, you're not. You're not doing this and doing that. You're collecting other people's mistakes. That's what you're in the business of.
I want to get to that of opening ranges and how wide are you getting out of line in certain spots, because I mean I've watched you play. You have your VPIP is like very high. You're opening a wide range of hands. Before that, let's talk a little bit about mental game and how much that plays into your success. And what are you doing off the tables, on the tables? What's the ritual?
Yeah,
so everything mental game.
A lot of it's hard knocks. Like when my first time through, I was a total tilt monkey, just a horrible tilt monkey. I just would give away my entire bankroll in a single sitting because I was mad. Like Dustin Wolf should like thank me for all his stuff. You know, do you remember Never Win? I don't know if you guys remember him.
No.
Anyway, one of the few early legends of online poker. But anyways, I couldn't tell at least 2-3 times where I would give him my entire bankroll in a single sitting because I was mad and I was just hitting raise until it was all gone.
Oh my god!
And so you kind of and that's how my wife remembers poker. And she remember me doing stuff like that. But I was young, I was really stupid, and we didn't talk about tilt back then. That was not like, mindset. There was no such thing as mindset.
Tell us a little details. When you say tilt, like, are you like breaking mouse and like have 4 or 5?
Yeah, my wife's favorite story is when I came out of the room with a banana in my hand and threw it so hard against the wall it shattered or splattered. Yeah, but the paint, and it literally ruined the paint. And so like we couldn't get the banana off the wall. We had to literally sand it and repaint everything.
Roadrunner type of stuff. Like
and like I'm 25 at this time, and it's just like a lot of back then. What I didn't realize, and it took me until I'm much older, I look back at it now, it's because it was never about the money. I didn't care about the money. It was about my ego. I needed to be validated through the form of poker. And when I was running bad, it was a direct shot to my validation. I couldn't handle it, and I would just tilt it all off because I didn't deserve to win. And so I would have this process where I'd lose my whole bankroll, build it back up, and eventually even those years I got better at that. Like by the time I was, 27, 28 or whatever, I was doing a lot better. But in those early days, when I was 24 or whatever, that was the story. So like, I know that that's in me. That monster is in me. And so when I knew going back to play this time around, that hey, I was going to play tournaments. It's hard to be a tilt go nuts when you're in a tournament. You can't blast off an entire bankroll in a tournament. So that was part of it. But this time around, it's just I'm a different person. I'm a lot older now. I'm not poker to me. I'm not trying. It's not about my ego anymore. I just generally love the game. I love the challenge that I kind of put forth. And so my motivations are different. And so I'm much, much less likely to tilt because I'm not trying to prove anything. I should say I am trying to prove something to myself in the sense that I felt like I had unfinished business that I wanted to prove to myself. But outside of that, I'm not, I'm not trying to seek, like greatness, And so that's like, it's hard to tilt when the stakes aren't that high in my head.
But Ryan, is there any ritual as far as like, do you work out, yoga, nutrition, anything?
Yeah. So when I first came back to poker, I was super regimented. I did always meditated before I started, watched my diet, and I can't say I'm doing those things anymore. I would say the last year of poker, I've picked up quite a few bad habits. I'm no longer meditating before playing. I'm no longer eating as healthy. I'm not studying as much. I've really barely studied the last while. So yeah, I've really picked up some bad habits. So if I go on a downswing here in the next 6 months, you'll know why.
How are you dealing with tilt at the table? Like, let's say you take a few beats, you had a nice stack, and all of a sudden you're down to like 15 bigs. How are you recovering?
It's really rare for me to get tilted at the table. Usually, I always believe that tilt doesn't happen at the table. It comes from somewhere else. You bring it from the outside world to the table. So if you show up pissed, that's where the tilts really kind of come in. If you have something internally that's bugging you and something doesn't go right at the table, that's when you get mad. But you're not really getting mad at that. You get mad at whatever you're bringing to the table. So just making sure, like, you're in a good place before is going to take care of 90% of that. But also, and this is what I do tell when I see people tilting the table that I like and I don't want them doing it, is it doesn't matter. Like, it literally doesn't matter. Like, whether you have 100 big blinds or 20 big blinds, you shouldn't be thinking like average chip stack or a stage of tournament. You're like, this is my chip stack. I have a strategy for this chip stack, so I'm just going to play that each hand individually. And that's like a way better way to look at it. So I don't get caught up in like, oh, I just lost 2 pots and I only have this many chips.
This is valuable. This is very valuable what you just said right
now.
Yeah,
that thought just doesn't even cross my mind. It's just like, okay, now I have 18 bigs. All right, I have a strategy for 18 bigs, and that's what we're gonna play. And
these days, I mostly get tilted when like when I see someone with like a ton of chips, like fucking like squander it. Like, so it's not even like me tilting. It's like, dude, if I had those chips, oh my god, like I would do him justice. Like, I'm ready for that, but I just don't have them, and he has them, and he's fucking up. And I'll like type to chat. I'm like, yeah, that fucking guy. Oh, and then he's just checking back.
He's gonna blast it off. Just watch. Yeah. He's gonna blast it off.
How much do you think just becoming a lawyer, like, it takes a lot of studying, a lot of memorization? How much do you think that translated to poker? Because I feel like big achievers in life, take it to whatever discipline they're involved in, whether it's poker or something else. So how much do you think that translated into success?
I'm very good at speed reading. I can read things like super fast. And that came from law school because there was just so much stuff you had to figure out a way. So yeah, I can take in large amounts of information. I won't be like an instant expert, but I can definitely like just throw it at me and I can process it. And I have like little tricks that I use. Like I read about that PLO book. I read that in like 3 days. So I can just like kind of go through it. And I have like, basically my process goes like this, is like, I'm not really reading is so much as I'm like reading paragraphs at a time and I'm highlighting. And so I know what each paragraph's about, and then I'll go back through and then to do a deeper dive. And so it's like a 2-pass system, and wow, through a lot of information that way.
Interesting. These days I can't read books. I'm all about like watching. I would watch videos for hours to learn something, but rather than
I'm still old school. I'm a book person. I like being surrounded by books, and I'm for
sure. You think Carl's up till 4 a.m. or 10 a.m. reading? No, I mean, he's watching videos.
Watching YouTube. That's my school is YouTube. I got a diploma from YouTube.
I'm like never on YouTube unless I'm like trying to fix something around the house, like, and I need to like figure out how to do.
I always have the challenge between watching something fun or studying poker on YouTube. Which studying poker for me is like.
Yeah, I guess there's like there's all sorts of YouTube poker celebrities that like people ask me about. I'm like, never heard of them because I'm never on YouTube. It's just not. Like, I'm only on Twitter, which is like, that's the only thing. That's why I'm always on there.
I see you active on there.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about bankroll management and money management. Is that your forte as far as, when you win a big score, where's the money going, for example?
Yeah, so I'm bankroll management expert because I blasted through a zillion bankrolls when I was younger. So I'm very good at, or at least back then, I was very good at turning nothing into a bankroll in a relative quick amount of time.
Yeah, you're playing free rolls.
Yeah, I could build a bankroll out of nothing, like relatively easy. This time around though, it's different because it's always easier when you don't have to take money out for bills, you know? And so like the bankroll can stay where it's at, you know? And so that takes a lot of pressure off. Poker's a lot easier when you don't need to win that score. And so poker has inadvertently become an important part of my income over the last couple of years, but it's set out to do that. And so I always have multiple income streams. And so that makes things way easier on bankroll management. So one of my biggest advices when it comes to bankroll management is it's not what's in the bucket, it's how the bucket's being managed. And you need, if you're 100% reliant, if there's only one valve going in and one valve going out, you're going to have a hard time because, I mean, you know, it's gambler's fallacy. You're just going to have, shit's going to happen and you're going to have a tough time. So I've always just advocated that, like, especially when it comes to bankroll management, it doesn't have to be anything. It just has to be something, some sort of second form of valve that's going into that bucket. It doesn't even have to be a lot of money, but it's just because it's going to matter. There'll be some spot at some time in which that's going to make all the difference. That little bit's going to make all the difference in the world. So that's what I always like when it comes to bankroll management. It's not about like, I need this many buy-ins. It's how it's structured. The structure matters way more than the amount.
Very well said. Let's move to the questions from the chat. We have a bunch of questions from people online.
One question before the chat. What's with this Willy Wonka behind you?
My
I've
boy.
been wondering for an hour.
Yeah, this is my boy. So yeah, I can't remember how it even started, but anyways, I had a long running joke with my wife about how I wanted a Willy Wonka cutout, life size, and she thought it was the worst idea she'd ever heard. She refused to get it for me. But basically, like, Willy Wonka is my hero. Like to me, like, that is, I mean, he is the world's greatest entrepreneur. I mean, like, he dreams big and makes it real. So he's like my hero. And so for my birthday,
okay,
I think I was like 39th birthday or something like that. I don't know. But actually, I think if you're friends with me on Facebook, I think she posted, if you go on my wall, you'll see this video where it's my birthday. And they tricked me and they asked me to, like, go do something. But anyways, I go into the bathroom and I open up the door and there's Willie just standing there staring at me, scared the crap
Gene
out of me.
Wilder.
Yeah, and there it was. So my wife thought it was the greatest joke ever. She's a prankster. So anyways, he hangs out in my office now.
Oh yeah.
And I get inspiration from him because, like, you know, he, like I said, he dreams big and makes things real. So I'm a fan.
That movie was really good. Growing up and watching that movie,
Not the Johnny Depp version. It's got to be Gene.
You don't like the new version with Johnny Depp?
No, hated that.
How about Timothy Chalamet?
Better than the Depp version.
Really?
What I liked about Gene Wilder's version is that you know, Willie's kind of an asshole.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit.
Little bit.
And I liked that. Like, there was some edge to him. In the Timothy version, he's just like the world's greatest guy, and that's not quite true.
I didn't see that version. What year did that came out?
It's a musical. It's decent.
It's
like brand new. Like 2 months ago or something.
So yeah, I took my kids to it. It was pretty cool.
Huh. All right, let's see what the guys in the chat have to say. Chad Kitchen, shout out to Chad. He's always in the chat. Great player. Every time I see him, he has a ton of chips, which of course translates to final tables. What's your strategy beginning and ending tournaments?
So kind of like I said earlier, I don't actually believe in stages of tournaments. I believe in risk premiums. I believe the risk premium kind of changes throughout the course of a tournament. But in terms of stages, I don't really, I don't have an early game strategy. I don't have a middle game strategy. I don't have an end game strategy. I do have a risk premium strategy where
explain to the audience what's risk premium.
Okay, so basically a risk premium is a discount you have to place on the chip EV based on the value of your tournament life. Your tournament life is not as valuable at the beginning of a tournament as it is when there's 15% left in the tournament. And once you get past the bubble, your tournament life actually gets less valuable than before it starts going back up again. There's a big drop off. And so basically you want to think about it like a tournament. It goes like this. Up and then goes down and then it goes up and then it goes down again like that. And so basically so when I think of like in a hand, I'll be thinking, all right, what's my risk premium right now? But I won't be thinking what stage of a tournament I'm in.
Interesting. Shane, do you have anything about this? Shane is a pro at the risk premium.
Yeah, I can give like a clean example for somebody. Risk premium, what he said when it discounts your chip EV value of the hand or something, you can imagine a scenario where like your final 3 tables, or this is going to be an extreme example, but say you have like 80 bigs and you're in like 3rd place, but there's like 3 tables, there's like 30 people left and you're in 3rd. When the chip leader like 3-bets you, the risk premiums are going to be super high because you and him are both 80 bigs deep, but everybody else is like 20, 15, 18. So actually like your 80 bigs are worth a ton. And for you to get them in with the chip leader for like 160 big blind pot, the risk premium is going to be insanely high. For like that reason, like say like the chip leader opens and you have queens, you might not want to actually get queens in against him because the risk premium's 15%. So basically what that would mean is like, if you're in a chip EV scenario where like you have 60 and he has 40, like a 60-40, this isn't good because there's also a 15% risk premium. So really like you're getting it in losing, even if you have 60, you're like, you might be getting in with a 45% real value.
Shane is on the money. Watch this chart. This chart actually opened my eyes about a lot of things. This is a GTO Wizard video talking about different strategies. And this is exactly what Shane was talking about. We have on 2 ends of the spectrum, we have ICM 100% strategy, and we have chip EV 95.5%, 95.5% the chip EV and 4.5% ICM. So these are 2 polarized strategies. One, it's going to employ a chip ICM right out of the gate, and that strategy is showing 3.3% ROI long term. We're talking like thousands and thousands of tournaments, and I'm going to tell you how does that translate on the table compared to chip EV 95%. So this is kind of like somebody that plays cash, so they're going for it in every spots. Every time they have a draw, they're just putting all the chips in. This strategy is losing 13% ROI in the long term. So what basically that says is somebody that employs a chip EV only strategy, basically like a cash game player. You see it all the time. They'll have like, if somebody comes to mind that plays this strategy is Armando. He's just out there fighting for pots. You know, he builds big stacks, but he doesn't know how to close because he's employing that chip EV. That it's too risky. It's way too risky. Compared to somebody that plays tournaments, and you see the tournament player is always going to put small bets, you know, they're taking small jabs at pots, never putting all the chips in. That strategy is going to min cash a lot more. It's not going to win that many tournaments. The chip EV in the bottom, it's going to, when they get chips, they're going to win tournaments, but it's not going to happen that often. The ICM strategy that they employ ICM right out of the gate, they're going to min cash more often and they're going to win sometimes. But overall, it's more profitable. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The bottom chart only applies ICM to the final table, like that final box on the bottom, and that was negative 13% compared to a full ICM strat. Yeah. Right.
I just wanted to put that in there since we're talking about risk premium. That video was all about risk premium. You can look it up on YouTube, by the way. Tuan Nguyen on Facebook says, nice dress up for St. Paddy's Day. What made you decide to keep the poker? What made you decide to keep the poker scene alive by dressing up? Most people are far too serious at the table. Where can I look up this picture? I know, was it in the winning picture?
It should be on the SHRT poker website.
Okay, I'll look it up. But go ahead. So the question is, what made you decide?
What's up with the costume? Yes.
Yeah, the poker scene alive, and most people are far too serious at the table. Let me look up the picture real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, poker should be fun. And actually, we play against each other a lot, like especially at Tampa. Like I probably wouldn't have done this in Hollywood, but like in Tampa especially, we all know each other. Like this is fun. Like let's have fun together. But in terms of the actual costume, it was St. Patrick's Day, so I dressed up in green. And my wife was like, you know, Ryan, we bought you that leprechaun costume a couple years ago and you never wore it. I'm like, what? So I busted that out. And I was like, man, maybe I will wear this thing. So I throw it on and I'm like, hey, what do you think? And my wife's laughing. But my daughter's like, You cannot wear that. And it was a little tight. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a few years. It wasn't really fitting right.
It did look a little tight, but
yeah.
but it was good.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do then. I'm gonna bring it, and if I make the final table, I'm gonna throw it out. So there it is.
Great pick, man.
There it is.
Yeah, you went on break or something. You like changed when you came back from break, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's how
go put it on. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, because I technically didn't wait to the final table. There was we had 2 tables left, but like I had like an insane chip lead. I had like close to 200 bigs, and I was like, oh, obviously.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was beautiful. When we started that final table, I think I had like 170 bigs or something like that.
What tourney was it?
It was the opener for Tampa Poker Classic.
Oh, the 400 opener.
Yeah,
event one.
Oh, you got first or second? What'd you get?
It took second. Yeah, couldn't close it. I still can't. How do I not close it out in that costume on St. Patrick's?
I know. Who got?
I think that's what it was. Like I just assumed I was going to win.
Thomas Robertson won.
Yeah, he's got good card sense. He made some good reads.
Not familiar.
Yeah. He's been playing a little bit more tournaments. I've watched what he's doing at the tables. Pretty decent player.
Well, he's got what I call card sense. Some people have card sense, other people don't.
Mm-hmm. So shout out to Tuan. Have you seen Tuan? I see him comments on my stuff all the time on Facebook, but I don't think I've played with him live.
I think, isn't he a cash guy mostly? I don't know. Wrong.
He's playing in Hard Rock Hollywood. He sold action on one of the sites.
I've seen him around. I can't remember any hands of going with him, but
I don't think I've ever played with him.
Everyone kind of, at a certain point, everyone just kind of merges together. It's hard to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thomas Robertson on Facebook says,
"Oh, there he is.
Let's go." Yeah, we're talking about him. Stuart Phillips on Facebook. Shout out to Stuart. Stu just had a big score in Hollywood.
Yeah, the seventh,
I think.
Yeah,
7th for 33K. I worked with Stu a little bit. We did some coaching. We talked about stuff. I know you're very studied. How do you balance in theory versus exploitative? And this is first part. And the second part is, what are some adjustments you make based on the table dynamics? So let's talk first about theory versus exploitative.
So surprisingly enough, I do think I'm much more theory-based than people realize. I definitely try to give off the idea that I am flying by the seat of my pants. I definitely will try to go out of my way to let people think that. But the underpinnings are all pretty foundational, except, we all kind of just F around every once in a while. But outside of that, I'm mostly theory-based. Basically, the rule I kind of have inside my head is like I'm never going to memorize everything, but I do have like a fuzzy, like what an old woman, what I imagine an old woman sees when she's like tries to look at a grid. Like I can always kind of have a fuzzy idea, and so my rule is always, as long as I'm in a pip, I'm not going to beat myself up. Like if I'm like in the zip code. It's when I'm not in the zip code, I just literally saw something different in my mind that I kind of get mad at myself.
Explain that. What do you mean in the zip code?
So let's say that you should be mixing, in my head I'm thinking, all right, you should be mixing this quadrant of my range here at whatever low frequency, high frequency, doesn't really matter. And so I go ahead, I randomize, and it turns out I do that. I go back and nope, it's not doing that at all. It was not doing that at all. Completely different part of your range is doing that. That's when I'm like, oh, all right, I got a problem here. So that's what I mean by the zip code. Because the solvers do, if you look at a solver, I think a lot of people, when they look at solvers, they just kind of look at A, just their hand, or B, what the linear part of the range is, instead of looking at it all holistically. Because how a solver logic works is it's going to be picking things, and you really need to be paying attention to where it's picking the low frequency things and why, because that's how the solver logic works. And so to the extent I'm way off, it's usually just because I thought something was going on there and there isn't. I guess it's just how I think. I could see it in my head. And sometimes I'm just wrong,
Before we move to the second part of the question, I'll talk about RFI a little bit to explain to the audience. Raised first in. What's your ranges looking like pre-flop?
So raised first in.
The ranges.
I'm pretty religious to Pre-Flop Academy. That is like my favorite since they came out. I use that. I have it on my phone. I use it all the time. That's what I kind of study for pre-flop. Like I don't really look at GTO Wizard pre-flop. I'm using Preflop Academy. I use G2 Wizard for flop forward. So yeah, I'm mostly following that unless I'm getting way out of line, which is, I guess, the question is, when am I getting out of line? And so I will do really seemingly super weird things. I will go way out of my way to get in a pot with players who I think are going to punt. And so, and some of it comes out in weird ways, I guess. But basically, like I said, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. When we're playing the lower limit stuff, I don't think I'm getting my chips by being the best player. I think I'm getting my chips by putting myself in a position for people to punt into me. And so sometimes it doesn't mean having the best hand and having them just go crazy. Sometimes it's the reverse, you know. But the point is you're trying to maneuver things in such a way that people do stupid things against you. And so so that's why I'm going offline. So if you ever see somebody do something really weird, I guess you should be looking at who's at this table and like, is he like doing something to try to get somebody to do something? That's usually when I'm doing something really weird.
Let's talk c-betting. This is my question. What are you doing on low boards, middling boards, and high boards? So let's say you open big blind defend, flop comes like 7 high. How often are you c-betting that board?
All right. So what position am I in?
Like cutoff, let's say.
All right. So yeah, cutoff versus big blind. All right. So a good heuristic for that is basically you want to think is who is the really easiest heuristic for it all is guess who has the 2 pairs, right? If you play guess who has the 2 pair game, that's how you figure out who had the back of the thumb for who has the nut advantage. But for low boards, cutoff, basically you're looking at any 2 cards above a 9 is almost always going to be a range bet. Once you start getting 8s and under, it depends on how coordinated they are. Right, so if we're talking 7 deuce 3, you're actually still doing quite a bit of
coordinated. We're talking coordinated boards. So
yeah, you're definitely checking a lot. Now
4-7-5.
4-7-5. All right, we're doing a ton of checking here.
Okay.
With that said, though, people don't check raise enough, and so as an exploit, you can get away with a little more c-betting.
You're c-betting what size? Big, small?
All right, yeah. So on a coordinated board like that, you probably want to size up, just because. People aren't check raising enough, and that's usually you size up because you don't want people to check raise, so that kind of takes against that. But
and what's the plan when they continue and you don't have it? So let's say you c-bet big on a 7 high board and it's coordinated, and let's say the turn doesn't approve your hand. What's the plan on the?
Depends on the turn card. Is it if it's depends on how those affect the ranges. Right?
Pairs pairs the low card. So 7-5-4 and the turn comes a 4.
Ooh, that's going to be a heavy check back spot. If it was 7-5 deuce deuce, then all of a sudden that's a blank, and I'm going to probably just pot it. Or even over bet. That's actually a good spot. Yeah, so it was 7-5 deuce, and it comes a deuce again. That's actually probably a good spot for an over bet. Now that I think about it, but 7-5-4-4.
Solver is doing some leads. Solver when the low card pairs. So
7-5-4-4 though, that's going to be a pretty big check back spot with a lot of your range. The type of hands that are still going to want to bet are things that are blocking the nutty hands, right? So you want to break up the 4x combos, you know, and so like ace 3 would not be bad to keep going. Ace 5. Things like that. Things are probably up to 4x.
So you want to have some equity to continue.
Yeah.
What's the plan? What's the plan when people lead into you on boards like that? Because some of the players would play.
Yeah. So exploitably or in theory. So in theory, it's pretty easy, right? You just go in terms of your doing a lot of calling. It ends up being a lot of calling, a lot of peeling when people lead into you. Exploitively, though, people love to cap their ranges. And when they lead, they're usually capping their range. And if they're a bad player, that means I can bet them off their hand. And so exploitively, I will just punish you for capping your range on me. But that's an exploit.
Don't you think it's player specific? Because some
players, I'm doing this against bad players. Like I wouldn't.
Some player, like yesterday in the cash game, the guy led into me, flopped the nuts. I had jacks on a 6-8-9. He had 7-10. He called $40 pre-flop in a 1-2 game with 7-10 and led into me.
You told about that,
yeah. So you know, some amateurs are leading like
Yeah.
nutted, and some amateurs are leading just the old adage of seeing where they're at. They're
Yeah.
still doing this in 2024. But so you got to interpret what's the lead. How do you interpret the lead? Is it strong or weak? Yeah. So it's
And all
clear.
that's going to be with how the like usually what you'll see if they're not capped, but if they're nutted, but the turn or the river can change equities, then that'll be a little bit of a tell that okay, he's not actually capped, he's just afraid.
Okay. So Sid on Facebook says, my man Ryan Hogan. Shout out to Sid. Jack Feeney.
Hey,
Jack, the doc. How important was joining Jaka's coaching in your poker career? And did you use any other sites prior to Jaka coaching?
Yeah, so I guess we kind of covered that, but yeah, I will always forever be grateful to Faraz for being my coach, and I will. If you ever asked me, I'm forever indebted to him. So whenever you ever ask me anything, my answer is yes, I will help you.
Nice.
But yeah, I also use those. I did run it once. I did pokercoaching.com. What else have I done? And a lot of books. I like books.
You're always gonna have that one training site that's gonna click with your style.
Yeah.
You always have that one that makes sense to you, because some people swear by like Ben CB's masterclass. I saw a few videos and I was disappointed. A little bit of his accent, a little bit of some of the stuff he was talking. It didn't click with me. For me, it was always Upswing. Faraz, I was impressed, and I only looked up his material after you kept talking about him, and I was impressed with some of the stuff. And I think Christina Reed talked about him once, and I think she did a little interview with him. But yeah, this is the first time I saw a couple of hand histories of his, and I was pretty impressed. AJ Kelsall on Facebook asks,
"Hey AJ,
shout out to AJ, the GOAT. What year do you think you'll give up No Limit Hold'em for the love of the mixed games?"
That's a good question. That's actually a really good question, because the answer is hopefully soon, but I think a little bit of people may be mistaken. I think a lot of people think I play a lot of volume. I actually don't. And I would love to play more mixed games, but I just don't do enough volume to where I can fit it in. So AJ, I want to join you over in your crazy deuce to seven, whatever you're playing yesterday, but I just it's a time thing right now.
I played the mixed game. It was just like limit high-low Omaha, but it was a tourney. It was like a $400 tourney in Biloxi. I ended up final tabling here like 7th or 6th or something, but I had so much fucking fun, dude. It was all you could raise to is like 2 bigs, and then like all you could check raise to is 2 bigs, and yeah, it was just like conserving your big bets. And dude, I'd never played it. I'd never looked at a video. Zero things going on at all. But I jumped into it and I got to like start piecing together like the game.
Yeah, it's fun sometimes not knowing, right? And you're like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Everyone wants
this is
both halves the pot, like a high and a low and shit. But I noticed like people being like way too nitty. Like, clearly, like, you got to open some hands that aren't like ace 2 XX. Like, you got to be some hand. So I caught on pretty quick, like how out of line I could get. And like I was open to shit. Like I knew it was probably like I could picture like what is right, and I knew this wasn't right, but I'm like, they're gonna let me do it. And then I just had a ton of fun. I would play mixed games more too. Like that was only one of them so far, but I had a blast.
Second part question, AJ asks or says, this year you can have a WSOP bracelet or Lions Super Bowl win. Which are you choosing?
He's picking Lions.
So when I first got back into poker, I set a goal because I just turned 40. I was like, all right, I want to have $1 million on my hand by the time I'm 50, and I want to have a bracelet. So I'm 43 now. So I still have 7 years to get a bracelet. So yeah, I'm going to go Lions Super Bowl. Yeah.
Last year was close.
I don't want just the Lions to win in my lifetime. I want them to win in my dad's lifetime. Like that's like it's got to happen. So yeah, I'm going Lions Super Bowl.
Ross Corliss, shout out to Ross on Facebook, says, say I have a special outfit I'm going to wear if I make a final table, but I have an overwhelming chip lead with 16 left on break. Should I change into it then, or will it run out of power heads up?
Oh my God. Oh, vicious but accurate. That's exactly how that went down too. Overwhelming chip lead, threw it on.
It's sick that you had the
Right,
outfit.
instead
that you
of
had.
waiting to the final table, we play heads up. Clock strikes midnight, and I can't make a hand to save my life. Meanwhile, Tom's getting. I think he had queens 4 times against me heads up. Like, come on.
Jesus.
So yeah. I guess I was wrong. I should have waited to the final table. That is the lesson. If the costume change is scheduled for final table, it does not matter how many chips you have. You have to wait to the final table.
You have to wait final table.
Yeah, otherwise it turns it back into a pumpkin.
Ashley Spring on Facebook. Shout out to Ashley. What do you consider some of the toughest players to be in the Tampa area? The goats.
Yeah, Ashley. Hey, yeah, well, her one. I have a different take on this. A lot of people say, "Who's the toughest? Who's this?" And I actually would say Tampa room itself does not get enough credit for how good the players are there as a whole, as a population. That's actually a tough room. Like if you can win in Tampa, you can win anywhere. Like if you are a profitable player at Tampa, you can be a profitable player in Vegas. I think we get so kind of caught up in like, who's where in the totem pole or whatever. But the truth of the matter is poker's like insanely hard. And if you can come into this game and play it any sort of period and not just get blown out, guess what? You're actually pretty good. And like in our room, especially, there's a ton of players I don't think quite get as much respect as I think they should. All right. I'm going to list as many names.
Let's hear it. Let's hear the names.
Yeah, if I don't mention your names, just because I literally can't think of it off the top of my head. But
then tweet at Ryan and complain.
Yeah, like Ryan Luker does not get enough credit for how good he is. Ryan Luker's good. Jason Block's good. Mark Winchell's good. Ashley Spring is good. Marsha's good. God, what else am I not thinking of? Tony March is good.
By the way, anybody you mention here, I'm getting them on the podcast.
Oh, Santos. Santos is really good. There's a guy that doesn't get enough respect. Santos is a really good player.
Who's Santos?
We just looked at his hand a minute ago.
Josias. Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah, Josias. I always call him Santos.
Yeah. Of course he's good. I asked him to come on, and he said he wasn't like too keen on it. But yeah, Santos is a crusher.
But there's just a ton of really good players. Eric, can never say his last name. He just did a run down in Hollywood.
Greek. I think his last name is Greek.
Yeah. Anyways, there's a ton of really good players, and I just think all people out there should be giving themselves more credit than they do. You're actually a good player, even if you think poker's hard and all that stuff. There's like a lot of really good players.
You know what? That's the first time I hear it, but it's now that I think about it, it's on point that you said that Hard Rock room has a lot of good players. It's tough. It's a tough room for sure.
Yeah, if you win there, you win anywhere.
Yeah, because you're playing at Silks, it's not going to be that tough. The regs at Silks are not the same as the regs at Hard Rock, and same for Derby. So yeah, we do have a lot of good players in Tampa for sure. Terry Ann says, shout out to Terry Ann. You sure know a lot of goats. She's talking about me because here there's a debate. They said somebody asked Steve Tritzies when he's going to come on the podcast, and Terry Ann said he only have goats on the podcast. So AJ Kelsall responds, when is the Greek goat coming on the show? The Greek goat is Steve Tritzies. You know Steve?
Steve? Yeah, there's another good one. Yeah, you won. I remember when he won the Pinktober main. I made that final table with him. He's a good player.
He's a good player. He's very good at reading people and taking it to the streets. Steve responds, shout out to Steve, the Godfather. Probably soon. I think he's doing it alphabetically. I don't get a shot till he runs out of goats. Terry Ann responds, he only talks to goats. Damn. Gabe Fuller. Shout out to Gabe.
We're goats, Shane.
I'll take it.
Gabe Fuller on Instagram asks, what's the craziest thing you have seen at the poker table?
Once saw a guy watching porn. That's got to be it.
Literally watching porn at the table?
Oh, yeah. Like, dude, what are you doing?
What?
Was it like a TikTok reel or was it just like Pornhub.com?
This happened more than once.
Maybe it was one of my stories.
It was not that cool. The guy was just slyly looking at it. But no, the best one I've seen was a guy who went out of his way to put porn on his thing and show it to the other player to piss him off. Look at it.
What? Jesus.
That's probably the craziest thing I've seen at the table.
Was the other guy religious or something?
the guy was just getting out of line for the sake of getting out of line type thing, and it was like one of those that just kind of devolved. Where I don't think it was the first time he did it. I think it's just like his go-to move when someone pisses him off. He like throws up porn and goes, "Look at it," like it's his move.
What?
But I've never seen the guy since. But so I don't know.
Andre Ronar, shout out to Andre. Andre has a big channel on YouTube, by the way. He does scratch.
I guess he's like the scratch off guy.
He's the scratch off king. He has over 100K followers. I'm like, teach me how. How do you get 100K subscribers? So he's making money off of that. So Andre asks or says, super nice guy. I messaged him a few questions on Twitter DMs, and he was always so supportive and friendly. Finally met him in person at Hard Rock a few months ago. Mad respect.
Hey, glad to help out.
Gabe Fuller on Instagram says, also, having played heads up so many times, do you feel that's a strong part of your game?
No, I'm horrible at heads up, which is weird. And like I said, I back in the day though, in limit hold'em, I was really good at heads up. Like really good. Like we're talking at the very, very beginnings of internet poker. I honestly couldn't tell you how I played back then though. It's so bad. And we're talking.
Well, playing the saying goes, you have to play heads up towards the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually surprised. Like my heads up record isn't very good. And actually this last one made me realize that because I haven't been studying it, and it made me realize, wow, I got a leak in my game. So I need to go back and restudy heads up. But yeah, to be honest with you, I was kind of relying on that. Like I've played a zillion heads up situations. And so I was just like, but now I have enough of a sample where I've gotten heads up and it has not gone well that I realize, oh, okay, I clearly am not playing heads up properly. So yeah, that's on the to-do list.
Second part of his question says, have you changed or studied heads up at all to improve? Where do you place heads up in terms of importance to your game?
Way more important than I was valuing it before. I'll tell you that much. Because if you look at my earnings, like what my earnings probably should be if I wasn't effing up on heads up, it's a lot. I've lost a lot of money not playing heads up as well as I know I'm capable of. So yeah, way more. I've basically learned the lesson a very hard way. And so yeah, next time I get heads up, I'm going to be playing a lot better.
Carl, you've got these connections at these card rooms, the local ones, and I'm inspired by the Hollywood running a 10K heads up tournament yesterday. You ever think any of them would want to run like a $500 like heads up tournament or something?
Oh, we need to do
super
that.
Fun.
That would be awesome.
Good idea, of course.
Buy-in would have to be bigger because it's going to be like one dealer per two players. So it's not like they could run like $100 heads up.
Well, I mean, yeah, the pool wouldn't be that big anyway. So make it big and yeah.
You'll be surprised how many players have something to prove because they always, whenever you talk shit about somebody online, they'll be like, "I'll play you heads up for this much and that much."
Yeah, I've never understood that. Like, let's play a completely different thing, like
different format, and try to prove to you how much I suck at poker. But what do you think the buy-in should be, Shane? And we can talk to either Brian at Derby or.
I think like if it's going to be one of these smaller rooms, because I know they're kind of known for smaller buy-ins too, like Silks and TGT, but I think it would have to be a big buy-in for them, like 400 or 500 minimum. I don't think they could if they did 200, I think they would get like 100 people, and I don't think they'd have enough dealers for that.
Yeah,
so it'd have to be like you'd want to get either like 32 or 64 people, right?
Yeah.
You want it like an even bracket.
That's a good point. Anytime the buy-in is over,
he could try it too if he wants, but.
Anytime the buy-in is over 360, you're gonna get like half the pool.
Yeah.
So 360 buy-in and up, you'll get like you said, 60, 70 players maybe at best. Yeah. But that's a good idea. Yeah. I'll talk to Brian and see if
it'd
we
be
can.
Fun. And also none of them have run it, so it's kind of like, oh, we're running it. Maybe they could advertise it. Yeah.
Yeah. Bob Burrell on I hope I'm not butchering the last name.
Bob Burrell.
Burrell.
Actually, if this is the Bob Burrell, I think it is.
It is on Twitter.
Okay, yeah. I went to high school with Bob.
Oh, damn. What size stack do you consider all in or nothing in a tourney? It's a multiple layered question.
Before I get into that, Bob Burrell taught me how to do a kickflip, and he introduced me to Wu-Tang. So Bob, love you, buddy. Thanks.
What's a flip kick? Soccer?
Skateboarding.
Oh, skateboarding.
Yeah.
And what's the other one?
Bobby Burrell and Byron Romig and future Emmy Award-winning actor Tim Robinson out there skateboarding.
I was going to ask you some Tim Robinson stuff on this interview, or one good Tim Robinson story.
I was going to ask you about background as far as like besides poker, like what's your background as far as like?
I was a good hockey player. Yeah.
Hockey?
Yeah, here we go. Here. This
Was
is
there
my
a
most
dream?
prized possession. 1994, 14 years old is when I peaked. State
We're
champ.
talking about Bob, and somebody popped up on the chat here. I think it's Bob Burrell. Shout out to Bob. If it's you, you can write in the chat to see if it's Bob Burrell or not, because I can't see his image yet. So Bob asked first, what's stack size for all in or fold, basically, in a tourney? What's how many big blinds?
Yeah, so all right, so this is when I get different than most people. Probably if you see me doing insane things, I remember I was doing some things where Fred was looking at me like, what is wrong with this guy? But as soon as we get really short, I still play full poker. Like I still play poker at 8 big blinds. I'm still not jamming. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I have certain parts of my ranges that are still jamming, but I'm still playing all streets on the majority of my range. And so I do like, careful how I phrase this, but I would imagine 2 years from now, 3 years from now, this will probably be the norm. Is that
it is the norm now? That is the norm now.
Okay, yeah. So it's just like people are jamming way too deep, and it's like stop doing that because it has to do with risk premium. It's basically what it is. It's like you have a risk premium that you really don't want to squander with short stacks. So you can still play a lot of poker on a short stack. I think people just jam way too deep. So yeah, that's basically my spiel on it. So I do a lot of weird stuff when I'm short stack.
We can go deep on the subject, but yes, 2017-18 when Snap Shove came into the picture, people were jamming. Anytime they're 20 bigs or under, like 19, 18 bigs, there was no calling or raising. They didn't have that. They just have shove or fold. And that turned out to be they're spewing so much money, losing so much money because that's where the money.
I think people get caught up on the calculator says, well, it's plus shove, therefore it's good, but that's not really what all that's going on there.
Yeah, something could be like plus EV, but not max EV. So like even open jamming, like jamming 25 bigs with ace king it'll make chips. It just doesn't make much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Shane, you want to pull up while I'm asking the next question? What's GTO Wizard doing with 12 big blinds? Just to show Bob what the solver these days is doing with 12 bigs.
Like it just folds to you. You have 12 bigs.
Yeah, you have 12 bigs. What you're raising
from like EP or something?
Sure. Make it like cutoff or hijack.
Those are gonna have a ton more jams because like.
Make it like
that many people.
12, 13 bigs early. Yeah, early.
Okay,
so let's have a mix of like limping, because the solver's doing some limps, some opens, and some shoves.
The limp stuff, like I know for a couple of years, like online players kind of started to like put limps into their ranges and try and like complicate the game tree. That only shows up in chip EV. So now that like everyone's kind of playing that ICM strategy we talked about earlier, it actually just doesn't play limps. So those are kind of gone. So the 12 big range will have like it'll just be min raises and folds. But yeah, I'll try and find that.
Okay. Second part of Bob's question: what do you look for in a hand to make an all-in? What do you look for in a hand to make the all-in bet?
When am I jamming? Basically, all my jams are generally going to be pretty polarized. And so it's going to be a mix of value and it's going to be a mix of bluffs. What I do think some people kind of mess up on is they think that their bluff should be their bottom of their range or their missed draws. And that's not really right. What you're really looking for is cards that are going to improve the likelihood of your fold, of the guy folding. So you kind of want to choose your hands and everyone says like blockers aren't real and stuff. But it's not really, and it is blockers, but it's more like how the hand is playing out, where that person's range is looking like, and how certain hands that you have left in your range is going to interact with their calls and with their folds. And you're looking for that type of hands that are going to maximize the ability for them to fold. And sometimes it's just hand interaction. It's not necessarily blocking, but you're blocking the hand that coordinates with the block. If they're more likely to call with certain combos and you're blocking their paired combo, then that would be a good thing, even though it's technically not blocking, if that makes sense. But basically, it's how it's interacting. You're looking for an interaction, and so it's not a lot of sense. Yeah, it's not just your bottom of your range. It's not your mixed draws. It's your value, and then on the value side is you're going to, the question is how much, well, the stack to pot ratio is playing pretty big in this. So like sometimes you're going to have a mixture of small betting, big betting, and jams. And whenever you get a scenario like that, it really complicates the tree. And sometimes what you can do is just get rid of your big betting and just go small bet jams. And that's probably make your life a lot easier because you always have to balance it. It's like you're an accountant, right? So if you're doing 3 big bets at the end, you got to have your bluff. You got to find some small bluffs and some medium bluffs. It gets really, really hard. It gets super complicated. And so it's easier, especially at the levels we're playing. We're not playing Triton. We don't need to be perfectly with our sizing. So simple is better. If your stack to pot ratio can justify an all in, yeah, you generally do that with your value, and then max it or bounce it off with the type of hands that are going to maximize the fold.
And he was given suggestions here. He said, feel free to consider or not position and / or other players' action and / or their table image. Probably adding too many variables to make this question answerable, so I'll stop.
But I think I know what he's saying. But yeah, like what's going on at the table that would make you find the bluff or find the all in? Right. And basically, what it boils down to is how are our ranges interacting, and how does it coordinate with the board?
This is a very technical question. How deep is Bob in the game?
I actually haven't talked to Bob in a very long time. I've been interacting with him a little bit on Twitter, but yeah, like I think he moved out of state. I don't live in Michigan anymore either. So, but anyways, I'm not really sure. Actually, that's a good question for Bob. How are you doing with that? Are you playing a lot of poker? I don't know, Bob. I hope you're crushing. But I think the main point is to go back for this question to make sense is you need to go back to the foundation of how are we thinking about the problem. Don't think about the problem in terms of this is what I have and this is what I think my opponent has. Think in terms of these are all the possibilities. These are how these possibilities are interacting. And then from that, I'm going to tease out a strategy. And it's just a different way of thinking about it.
Bob has another question too. He says, how much have you studied / how much coaching have you had? And then what books do you recommend reading?
Yeah, so I guess we kind of went over that. Obviously, I'm a huge advocate for Jaka coaching. I think I don't think he charges nearly enough. I think he should be charging way more than what he does. I think it's like the best deal going. Like even if it like doesn't work out, like he's not your kind of guy. We're talking like you can get a whole month for less than a buy-in. Like what are we doing here? Like why aren't you? You know, like some of the stuff is like I'm of the opinion that poker coaching is way too cheap. It needs to be way more expensive.
Yeah, because you can just make a career out of it.
Yeah, it's like this.
I always thought that like Jaka coaching, because I saw his video on like pokercoaching.com like a long time ago, and it was more like it wasn't super detailed, but it was like a broad picture thing, and I kind of just thought that's how he coached. But then Clyde was like logged in on Jaka coaching. I think he's been like looking at their videos too, so I kind of saw what they had to offer. It's a lot of content. It's not just like Faraz talking. It's
he's got a whole stable of coaches, and it's built over.
Yeah.
Well, it's going. Like
that surprised me. I didn't realize it was a whole like machine. I kind of just thought it was like Faraz talking. Yeah. I should say that the one thing that is different about Jaka coaching is that it comes from classroom settings. So a lot of things they just post videos. Like Random Once will just have a video, and it's just like this is what it is. But all the Jaka coaching has live aspects of it. So you're in the classroom and like you're interacting. And so like that's how I learn. I need to interact. Like I remember when we were doing one-on-ones, I'd always like stop. I'm like, okay, I'm going to explain everything I believe you just taught me, and then we'll find out where the holes are. And he still does that to this day. You know, he'll just like, all right, we're stopping, say what this is out loud. And so you know where you're at, I know where you're at, and we can figure out what's going on. Because when it's all just one way, there's no you don't know what you don't know, and you end up a whole lot of unknown ignorance, and people end up playing worse than had they not got the coaching. It's usually because of that problem right there. There's an ignorance cloud.
I'm trying to sign into Twitter here to show Faraz last tweet about he's giving away some coaching. I think you have to do certain thing on Twitter, kind of like share his tweet. Here, let's look it up.
Yeah, he's got some sort of promo going with Greg All In.
Yeah, here we'll give him a plug. Let me ask you the next question, and I'll look it up real quick. The next question is Nicole Diaz. Shout out to Nicole.
Cool.
The GOAT. Looking forward to this. Thank you, Nicole. Shane Melert, this
Hey,
guy,
you know that guy?
on Twitter says, fuck yeah. Well played, sir. Well played. This is Faraz. I pulled up his Twitter. I don't see the tweet yet. After this, we are going to look in the, we're at the 2-hour mark, by the way. Sick, time flew by.
Hey, we're doing good.
Yeah, I think it got way deeper in the theory the last hour or so.
All right, so this is an episode for theory, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
This is the, you guys see the screen, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think this is the tweet.
Oh, yeah, they gave it out. Yeah.
Winning a free seat to the 6-week WSOP Blueprint training program. That's his training program. It's for the WSOP. The first lesson starts tonight at 5 p.m. That's the program. He has, I guess, a training program for the WSOP.
It's not too late. You can still jump in and join. And just, you'll have the recording of the ones you already did, but then you can just join the live ones. Always try to join the live ones when you can, because you get way more out of it.
Interesting. Okay, guys, let's dive into this hand real quick. I have a hand set up between Fedor Holtz. It's a Triton hand. They're down to 8-handed. Let me share the screen real quick.
So, yeah, I haven't been able to kick I started up on Mountain Dew again. I really need to stop.
Oh man, dude, you should know they
It's horrible.
they do a ton of zero sugar Mountain Dew drinks. Like
Yeah,
a decent amount.
It's so bad. Like, because
They're
I'm
still
a huge
tasty, but
caffeine person, so I drink a lot of coffee,
Me
and
too.
then you just drinking it all the way through the day. So then, like a month ago or 2 months ago, when I was driving down to Hollywood, I bought some Mountain Dew, and I was like, oh god,
Fuck.
sweet nectar of the gods, and I've been hooked ever since.
I try to avoid all the sweet drinks.
Oh, it's so bad, and then I crash
Sugar-
afterwards because of the
sugar-free.
sugar. Yeah, it's so bad. I really need to get off.
Taco
this
Bell has the Baja Blast. They have a sugar-free Baja Blast. I don't.
See that? Like you need to not tell me that.
Okay, this is the hand, guys. It's Fedor Holtz versus Kudinov, a Russian player, pro. They're down to 8-handed. Fedor has 52 big blinds. Kudinov has 22 big blinds. The blind's at 100K big blind. It's a spot, small blind versus big blind. Fedor decides to open 4-6 off from the small blind. He goes, let me see what sizing. He goes like 2.4x. And Kudinov has the 9-10 off, standard defend from the big blind.
Oh, many things. 10-9 off, you're definitely going to be a defense position. Guy's going to try to pick on you.
They're not even final table. This is 8-handed of a 6-handed tournament. So there's
6-handed tournament. So there's another table.
There's the pay jumps though. Like they should still have like a 9, 8, 7,
So
6
they're playing
pay jump.
4-handed.
Queen deuce doesn't
Yeah.
hit.
Yeah, 4 and
folding
4.
in terms of a
So
pair.
Kudinov's like
but
25
does
big
pick up the
deep
gut shot
pre-flop.
straight draw.
Definitely get a call. Fedor is a huge chip leader, so he's just gonna he's gonna play like a pure raise strat here. So he probably won't have that many limps. They'll be like a 10% limp range and then like an 80% raise range.
I plugged it in the solver. The solver doesn't even have 4-6 off opens, but like you said, just for the
Checks
fact
has the pre-flop razor.
that he's chip leading, so he's leaning on the short stacks. He can lean on the 20 big blind that Kudinov has and put max pressure on him. So
Yeah, but based on the blind thing, that his range gets a little bit wider and it just gets way more aggro.
exactly. I'm surprised he took the check on that board just because he was pre-flop raiser. This is a board where we should see bet at a high frequency.
I'm guessing the equities aren't actually. I mean, I'm assuming Holtz probably still has the range advantage, but remember he's going to be opening here with. So like, remember doesn't have a lot of limps, right? And so his range is actually pretty dang wide here. And so there was no 3-bet, but there was a call, and his call range is going to have a ton of king X, queen X. So yeah, I really don't think range advantage is really. Actually, I'd be curious. I don't even know if it's pretty even.
I mean, but Fedor plays like the solver, so whatever Fedor
so
does.
like I would venture that it's probably at the least half check, half bet, if not more checks.
He decides to check flop, and turn goes for the small Cbet. He Cbets. He delays Cbet on the turn.
With when the paired on the king.
When it's a super small size. I mean, you're not gonna get much to fold here.
You're right.
Yeah, that is just get the junk because he has a ton of junk, and that's just only going to get rid of the.
Yeah, turn bet's trying to make 9 high fold or something.
Yeah, exactly.
He bet 0 pairs, 0 ace ever folds. Yeah.
Yeah, he bets 175K into 755, so less than third.
Yeah, so this it's just a pure get the junk out, but like so we're riding at the river with just insanely wide ranges. Both of these guys just have insanely wide ranges at this point.
Yeah, I think you guys were like 50-50 on maybe like betting flop sometimes. I think Fedor should probably bet it way more than you guys are thinking.
Oh, you thinking? Okay.
King and queen is always good for us, but it's not even that. It's the ICM dynamics of like we
can
chips that cost nothing, and then like this guy really needs
especially with the awkward stack size that Kudinov has, the 20 bigs. He can't make any mistakes at this point.
Yeah, I would probably just bet flop bet turn. So close to pure with range.
Question is,
so river's an ace and Fedor goes for it, but not a big bet.
Kind of size that looks very milky. It does look credible for an ace.
Sure does. And I think this may be the end of the road for Kudinov.
Good ace highs can bet turn. Like if Fedor just has like ace 9, he could probably bet turn for value for that size. Because like we said, this guy still just has to call like jack highs, other ace highs.
You know, it'd be even sexier than making a play is flatting 10 high. You know that, right?
So how many of his ace highs are betting flop? Like
Holtz?
Yeah, probably half.
I would probably just bet flop with like ace 2, ace 3, ace 4. Man, I'd probably bet flop with close to range anyways though. So like I'd probably still
I mean,
he's got checks though. So let's try to think like what are his checks?
I think Fedor has a bunch of actually checks with his ace high, like the ace 10, ace jack, or sometimes betting, sometimes flatting, because of showdown value, you can play turns and rivers like very comfortably. You can bink the nuts on the turn. If you have like ace jack, you bink a 10, you bink an ace. So those hands are checking a lot. So he has a lot of ace X in his checking range on the flop. So that ace nails Fedor on the river. So and his bet sizing, I think, makes a lot of sense. What's crazy about the hand is he gets called by 10 high, which is insane. How does this guy finds a call?
I mean, it's not a solver one, but I think it's not that crazy. I would call this well within the zip code. I would all this off of
God, is he going to do it?
Because he does. Like if you look, these ranges are insanely wide. They're just because we have so many offsuit junk combos left. There's just a ton of them, and so you try to break down where 9-10 is going to be in terms of the value, like how often he's had. It's actually quite, it's not like over 50, but he's betting small here. He doesn't have to be right 50% of the time. You know, I mean, obviously we have some risk premium going on, obviously, but like he doesn't have to be right very often. And 9-10.
What's in the call right here?
Yeah. Show everyone this 10-9.
But like Jack 9's a call. Right? So like 9-10's off the pip. You know?
If I was honest, I think Fedor misplayed this hand pretty bad. I think
earlier in the hand, though, right?
Yeah, I think you 2.4x. I think you're still just supposed to go 3 bigs when you're 20.
That was the one thing I was thinking, especially because he has got 25. It's not like the guy's got 18. Like, when you have 25, you still should be 3 in it. But.
And then you can have like the flop checks. That's fine, even though I maybe wouldn't do it. But then I think the turn size is bad. I think he's just inflating this little pot.
The solver is doing everything the way they played it, kind of like. Especially 4-6, it doesn't have 4-6 off. It has 4-6 suited. Like 4-6 suited is doing. Here, let me pull it up. 4-6.
You're like I can't. Yeah, I mean 9-10's never calling, but I think it's in the zip code, right?
For like this one, I would want like a post flop solve, or post flop ICM solve. You have to run them individually. They're super tough because this will be a chip EV strat.
This is a chip EV strat.
But Fedor should be more aggressive than this.
This is what 4-6 is doing on the
And,
flop.
and think about like just how many offsuit combos that puts in his range, right?
Yeah.
He's just has a ton of 9-7 offsuit. And just
4-6 is actually doing a lot of checking. It's checking 81% of the time. Except the 4-6 of hearts is doing some betting, checking only 37%, and 4-6 of clubs. So the hands that have backdoors, 4-6 of clubs has the backdoor clubs, and 4-6 of heart has the front door flush draw. So those hands are checking only 37% and betting the rest at different sizes.
Actually, I would be curious, but I probably don't have the chart for it. But in Fedor's defense, although I think he should have done bigger sizing, there was no 3-bet pre, so that takes a lot of aces out. It's like there's a guy who doesn't really have a whole lot of aces. Like, he does have some, but like, you know, that ace was a good card for Fedor there.
But as played, I put check, check. This is what 9-10 is 9-10 suited is doing. A lot of checking, some betting, some leads, like especially the 9-10 of hearts, the front door flush. It's checking like 60% and betting the rest. And then turn, when the king pairs, the small blind here with the 4-6 suited, it's doing 60% checks and 40% bets.
Yeah, but it likes to bet this 10 big blinds. It likes to go pot. At least, well, the 6-4 of hearts. The other ones all take like a 3 big blind size, which Fedor kind of tried to do like the small size. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
the 6-4 of hearts
makes
is betting. Yeah, the 6-4 of hearts is betting 74%, but he had 6-4 off. His hand is not even here because it's not solver approved.
Yeah.
But anyway, it goes bet, call, and this is what the 9-10 of spade is doing on the turn. A lot of checking, except the 9-10 of heart is doing some betting. It's doing some raising too.
I think this is a realistic range. I think this is what he might be folding. All these blue hands are going to be what big blind's folding here. Yeah, when Fedor's betting tiny, he's just trying to get these folds from like Jack 8, 10, 8, 9, 8, 8, 5 suited. Just worse air than we have.
Mm-hmm.
If he did pick a bigger size, I think you'd just get a lot of like Jack high folds or whatever. Like all
look
of
at
them.
9-10
like
of spade. 9-10 of spade is calling at 98% of the time, which is very loose.
In all the blind versus blind solves, they both have to float super wide. So like on flop, like king queen 2, if Fedor were to like bet in chip EV, like half pot there, big blind is probably supposed to call every combination of hands with 2 clubs in them. Big blind has to call like everything super wide. So like even like Jack 5 of clubs would have to float the flop here, in theory. So no one does this. Only online players do this. So these Triton players would do it. So maybe it's not super applicable live, but in these solves, if you have 2 clubs in your hand and there's 1 club on the board and it's a blind versus blind hand, you can't fold. And these are your bluffs for like turns and rivers because these ranges are huge. You're not playing like you're under the gun range.
Yeah, that's like the ranges are so wide, and when you get ranges that wide, weird dynamics happen.
Like, yeah.
I'm surprised the 4-6 of heart is doing a lot of betting on the river when it doesn't get there. 4-6 of heart is betting 78% of the time. It's going for it, even though it blocks the flushes that you want, the flush draws that brick that your villain has to have, or you want them to have. That's weird.
Yeah, it's because the ranges are so wide here. There's plenty of other flush draws. There's like Jack 2 of hearts. Yeah, there's just all kinds of wide range. Hands.
Yeah, you're not blocking. Yeah. I mean, but the board is blocking a lot of, which the big blind shouldn't have, like ace king of heart, ace queen of heart, queen jack of heart, king queen of heart, king 10 of heart. All these combos are blocked by the board. Yeah, and it's checking, like the 4-6 of spade is checking 93%, so it's giving up here. Those hands are giving up, and the 4-6 of heart is going for it, and the 4-6 of clubs is checking like 70%, going for it 30% of the time. But of course, here Fedor goes for it, and here the big blind, when he goes for it, 9-10 of spade is folding a ton. See the blue here?
I was curious if like the 9-10 does better as a jam. I was gonna ask you guys, but it's cool to see. Yeah,
I thought jam is like, if you're unblocking all the flush draws, then it's like, oh, I guess maybe we'll do a little something fun.
You know
Yeah.
what?
Well, we
I
have
was
the
gonna
10 blocker.
say this is a signature Becker move. Becker, if he knows like the 9-10 is like borderline, he would go for an aggressive action here.
Yeah,
But
9-10
I mean,
spades is what you want because it's
yeah,
unblocking. Well, in this case, we got the hearts and the clubs, but yeah, like you want to unblock those flush draws, and those are the folds.
agree. But the risk premium is too great here. If you make a mistake, like let's say you jam and get snapped by Fedor, like it's costly here.
Lights out.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're at the 2-hour 20-minute mark. Let's wrap it up with let's rank the rooms. Ryan, you've played in all the rooms, right? Derby, Silks.
I've only played at
Oh.
Hard Rock. I've never
this-
been to Derby. I've never been
All right,
to
rank
Silk.
them.
So yeah, I'll go by reputation from I hear from everybody else.
No, that doesn't apply. You gotta have the full
His
blown
whole list
experience.
is just Hard Rock, number 1.
Yeah, Hard Rock is first and last apparently because
There
it's
you
only
go.
Hard Rock. Yeah.
That's it. We have Sudhir here in the chat. He said I told him to come on camera. He wasn't ready to come on camera, but he had a question for you. You know Sudhir, by the way?
Yes. Yeah, we just played with him the last tournament I played at Hard Rock. I think he took like 15th or something. I took like 14th. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I think he introduced himself at Derby. He told me he's
He's a really nice guy. He's a good dude.
Yes. He said, "What's your study routine? Do you plug in your hands to solvers? Last thing, let's go Lions."
Yes. All right. So yeah, my study habits have been awful since basically the end of the World Series last year. I went through a period where I got a little burnt out, took off October, came back fresh, been playing a little more street poker lately, which isn't good. I know I need to study, but I haven't done it yet. So this is me yelling at myself. My study habits have been really bad. With that said, though, like even when I'm saying I'm not studying, I still am on GTO Wizard quite a bit, and I drill myself, but it's not structured. Like I said, I'm forest, not trees. So like when I consider study, I'm talking about doing a deep dive on certain dynamics in a game and like trying to learn everything I can about that dynamic. I have not been doing that in way too long, but I still am on GTO Wizard all the time and just testing myself and making sure like that's like.
And Sudhir says, "Thank you for your review on my hand and directing me what I should have done."
I still think he had 2 pair.
His opponent.
Yeah, it was a crazy hand. The guy just crazy over jammed. I can't remember the exact dynamics. I don't want to give the hand history because I'll butcher it. But yeah, I remember landing on. Like I didn't even tell him at the time. It was like later on. I was like, oh, I think that guy had 2 pair.
Guys, it's been fun. Thank you for coming on, Ryan. For sure, everybody's expecting this to go online. I'll do some editing here. Shane, thank you for co-hosting. Anything to wrap up the session?
This was fun. I enjoyed it. Thanks, Shane, for doing it.
Yeah, no problem, man.
K-Man, just thanks for doing this podcast. I think it's a huge hit. People really do like it. I watch it religiously. I enjoy learning people's poker journeys and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just thanks for having me on. I really
Appreciate it, man.
You're going to get some compliments when you go to the tables. People are going to be like, I watched your podcast. It was a ton of fun. I didn't know that about you. It's fun. It feels good.
I learned so much about you, Ashley. I didn't know the background. I didn't know you've been playing that long. This is all new to me. That's what I like about the podcast. Somebody's background. I thought you just came to the picture. I'm like, this guy's crushing from 2020 till now. Now I know your background is from like
not a poker savant. No.
Poker savant. Anytime you want to come co-host too, you're more than welcome.
I enjoy this. Yeah, invite me on anytime. I like it.
Yeah, of course. We dive in more. We can have a podcast just dive into theory stuff.
Yeah, the theory stuff
that's why I have
pretty
Shane.
I like that.
Shane is a true wizard here, and I like his the way his I like to pick his brain in spots, and he knows how to articulate. He knows how to.
Shane will eventually leave us. He's gonna be playing
Big
high
shot.
rollers one day, and we're like, remember when he used to come on the podcast with us?
Oh, I
That'd be
know this
cool.
guy on TV. I know him. I used to play with him.
I needed some rich sugar daddy. And
Yeah.
then I could do it. But maybe they'll find me through the podcast and buy
See,
me.
you got to be showing up at these tournaments in costume like I do, man.
Yeah. Make a name for myself.
You gotta catch their eye.
True.
All right, guys, we're gonna wrap up. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Good chatting with you guys. See ya.
See ya.